whatever you're doing. And we're thankful once again for you guys being on with us today. Whether you're joining us on the podcast, you're joining us on YouTube, or even joining us on later on Facebook. If you're joining us on TikTok, we appreciate your presence. Grand rising to you. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer. And it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hopefully you all are doing well. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya, anakitawaya, Ohio. I see you. Kamsa, kamsambida. Ciao. Aloha. Ako aba, etese. Habarigani. Jambo, mimi ni Kofi, nina Frank Kukutana na wewe. Bakwaratav, Barakalad Sham Yahava, Shalamalad Sham Yahava, Anai, Kofi, headed of servants of Christ, Mashalam Khe. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate you so very much for being on again today. In lieu of putting businesses out there today, I want to make it a point to say that I will be doing my best throughout this weekend, this 4-day weekend for many of you. And happy born day, Sister Lori. I tried to say so. I probably was late. I'm not even sure, but I tried to say so on Facebook and Messenger and all that. But happy born day to you. Hopefully all is well with you and your family. And hopefully you're catching back up on some things and praying that everything that the enemy meant against you, that it be used for the glory of the Most High. Don't really have a particular scripture to go into. We will do our Bible pledge though, and we'll see where the Holy Spirit takes us. Today is in the world Thanksgiving. Every fourth Thursday, I believe, or every last Thursday, something like that, of the month of November is Thanksgiving, and that will be what we'll talk about today. The truth about Thanksgiving. We've been told some things by the Babylonian benefactor, and we want to make sure that we're on track with what is Thanksgiving actually. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to the diaspora? How is it affecting the community that we're in? What was it actually originally intended to be used for? What was it originally put in place when it was reshaped or given a new, it was advertised differently? And, if you guys have Q&A or different things about it today, feel free. What we'll be doing for tomorrow and Saturday, if all goes well, famous last words these last few weeks, but if all goes well, we'll be finishing up with Q&A in the Babylonian Benefactor series, and then we'll start focusing on some specific stuff until we start getting closer to the end of this year. If you haven't heard from me, I've been trying to get to certain people who had asked for information. So if you haven't heard back from me yet, just because I've been sick, please remind me if you're somebody who is interested in trying to do the Jamaica trip. We do have the information for you. And the spot that we'll be in, I'm not sure. Like we said earlier, if you are going, we won't be able to financially back anybody. We didn't even have the money ourselves to go until somebody was able to do some partnering and stuff and was able to bless us. So, and I'm praying that I actually be able to meet up with not only some SOC over there, but also some family over there. So if you're somebody who's in Jamaica or in the Caribbean, if you're able to travel or do certain things like that, if you're interested in meeting up with us, or if you're somebody who's interested in traveling over, and maybe, I'm not sure what we would even be doing as far as fellowship over there. But if you're interested, just let us know and we'll kind of be doing stuff on the fly. But what I'll be trying to do for today and this day of Thanksgiving, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and possibly Sunday, is I'll be trying my best to reach out to everybody who I can just basically just scroll through my phone. I'm literally going to be scrolling through my phone, and I'm going to be trying my best to reach out to everybody. It might only be 5 minutes. Might only be a voicemail if you can't answer the phone. But during these times, we know that a lot of people get lonely, especially those of us that are in the truth and the walk that we have now, where you feel like you're on an island by yourself. And I would invite you guys to do the same thing. We'll try to get together and ensure that we are coming together. Since I was sick the last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to make this announcement. So it is what it is. But I personally will, and I'll be telling you why as we go on. I personally won't be. I'll be trying my best not to eat today and tomorrow. And we'll explain what that is. Obviously, if you didn't know about it, the only people that would have known about it would have been a few of the ministerial staff in our Sunday prayer who were on. So obviously, it's not a requirement, just letting you guys know. But we'll be reaching out to you all and trying our best to make sure that you guys are doing all right, letting you know that somebody's thinking about you, caring about you. And if we do have a conversation, because I got so many people trying to call, I'm not sure if I will be able to have long conversations when we talk. But if you do have questions, comments, concerns about specific things that need help, maybe that can be your opportunity to let me know, and then we can maybe have brief dialogue and discussion. But thank you guys for your prayers. Thank you for thinking of us. I have been going through a lot. Uh, uh, and been forced to lay it down a lot lately. So I apologize every time I feel like I'm ready to get back up. I've been kind of smacked back down, but it is what it is. So you did that the past 2 years there. But let's say hello to everybody real quick. Then we'll do our Bible pledge, and then we'll get into today. Not sure how long we'll be on today. Probably about our normal. If it be Yah's will, if my body can continue to participate, we'll probably be on just for a little bit. But we thank you guys so much for being on with us, and we appreciate you. To the moderators, ministerial staff, to SOC, to Lottie down, everybody, I bow down to thee. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on with us, and we're excited and we're grateful. I ask that you keep myself and my family in prayer. We'll be doing the same thing with you all, and thank you guys once again for being on. Let's say hello to everybody real quick, and let's get into this conversation about Thanksgiving. How you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, Spiritual Prospect? How you doing, Ain't No Telling? How you doing, Sherry? How you doing, Lafayette? Some young, some wise. Hello, how you doing? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? How you doing, DB? Sister Renee, Sister Betty. Thoughts with, I think it's Thoughts with SJ. Hopefully I said that correctly. Sister Nadine. Once again, happy born day, Sister Lori. Welcome, Sister Monica. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Sunny day, everybody. We appreciate you. Brightborn, if I miss your name on any of these platforms, please forgive me. Charge it to my head, not to my heart. It's not my intention to miss anybody. We're thankful and grateful. How you doing, Charles? How you doing? Did I say Brightborn already? Hopefully I did. How you doing, Lifeline Apparel? Joseph, Dr. Knight. Everybody, we appreciate you. Come on in. How you doing, Natriel Sweetness? I forget which place in the Caribbean somewhere. No, wait a minute. Natriel, yeah, not the Bahamas, right? I'm not sure. How you doing, Darius? Everybody, lie down. Everybody, if I miss your name, once again, charge to my head, not to my heart. I appreciate you so very much. How you doing, Mike R4598? Everybody. Sister Stacy, Sister Shima, Minister Tamara, Kudwomo. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly at all. Please forgive me if I messed that up. Thanks for being part of the community, though. How you doing? Is it Jefferson? Everybody. Jennifer, Jefferson Victor, Mrs. Maggie, or Maggie, not sure how to pronounce. But thank you all so much, Sister Mignon. Just me, man. Alrighty. Cool. Brother Jermaine. Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. So we're gonna talk about Thanksgiving. We'll say our Bible pledge real quick, but I'm not led to give a particular verse this rising. But if you have your Bible or your device, if you want to go ahead, put your right hand or your device or your Bible in your right hand and repeat after me, we'll see where this takes us. This conversation takes us today. But just repeat after me and say, this is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahushua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. At Sham Yahweh, or in Yahweh's name. Amen. Amen. Thank you for reverencing. We appreciate you. So today we're going to talk about Thanksgiving. And we talk about this, at least once a year. Sometimes we go multiple times talking about holy days and stuff throughout the year. And obviously it pops up in certain conversation. But today we're going to talk about Thanksgiving. And we're going to speak on it from the perspective of what its original intent was twice over. And how you doing, Brother Vince? How you doing, bro? How you doing, Nana V? How you doing, Miss Purple? So we're going to talk about today Thanksgiving. And it's really important to talk about the original intent of it, because we can straight up see that something obviously is happening. Now we're in the midst at the end of the series, the Babylonian Benefactors series. And we talked about what the Babylonian benefactor gives you to try and make you a Babylonian beneficiary. How you doing, Mrs. Collins? Right. And so when we talk about Thanksgiving, we have to be honest about what Thanksgiving is from the jump. Thanksgiving from the jump. So we talk about the origin of the word Thanksgiving. We have to realize that you're talking about something from Middle English. All right. How you doing, Minister Morel? You're talking about something from Middle English. Okay. A lot of people think that they know what Thanksgiving is. Thanksgiving does not mean the same thing as give thanks. So if you're not careful, you'll have this mindset that whenever you see somebody say Thanksgiving, they're talking about being thankful for something. And yes, that's true to a certain extent. Peace, Goldie, how you doing? Right? But that's not what Thanksgiving was in its origin use for. A matter of fact, this word Thanksgiving does not mean I'm thankful only, right? Thanksgiving is an old Middle English word or term that if you saw somebody use, they weren't talking about giving thanks, right? Well, yes, if you want to call it that and all those different things. I see you, Nehemiah. Yeah, But before we even get there, the origin of Thanksgiving has nothing to do with giving thanks. The origin of Thanksgiving does not mean to give thanks. If you wanted to say give thanks to somebody, then you just say, I give thanks, or I am thankful, or I am grateful, right? If somebody used the term Thanksgiving, though, even from the Eurocentric perspective, right? A lot of people might not know this, but if somebody used the term Thanksgiving, right, they might not even have said Happy Thanksgiving, but if they were talking about a period of Thanksgiving, right, that's different than what we think about today. We think about a day of, or you think about Thanksgiving and then Black Friday and then your weekend after nowadays. But if somebody back in Europe at the time when this was a thing. It was a thing that was done, but it wasn't a thing. It wasn't our thing, first of all, but it wasn't a thing that was done the way you think. How you doing, Brother Joseph? If you heard somebody say Thanksgiving, they were talking about fasting, right? If somebody was talking about Thanksgiving, they were talking about what? Fasting. How you doing, DB? So Thanksgiving is completely different than what we think of it today, because you think about it as what? As engorging yourself and then watching some football games, right? You'll be what are the games this year? I don't know. It's always Dallas and Detroit playing somebody, and then they have a third one, right? So what was it, San Francisco versus Seattle and Dallas versus Washington, which interestingly enough, they've changed the name now, but it would have been usually Dallas versus the Redskins, right? Where they would have done something to the natives and celebrated it. And then you would have had, and then who else would you have had? And then you would have had, uh, and then you have Detroit versus somebody, right? Or whatever, right? And it has now become more of a distraction because the second origin, or the United States origin of Thanksgiving, is actually obviously way more sinister, which is it was meant to be a distraction. So Thanksgiving in its origin used to be what? To fast, which meant you didn't eat anything and you were supposed to pray. That's what they did in Europe. Europeans who came over who celebrated any kind of Thanksgiving, if the Puritans, if they in fact did celebrate any kind of Thanksgiving, that would have been a period of fasting. Was not necessarily even a particular period of time where they had to have Thanksgiving, but it was something where somebody said, we're going to have a period of Thanksgiving. People knew we're going to turn up our plates, right? That was the origin. Now you have to ask yourself, when did it become officially in the United States of America before it becomes the United States Corporation? When did they start telling you and I, well, really at the time they wouldn't have cared to tell you and I because they wouldn't have thought of you as a person, right? Nevertheless, though, the people who considered themselves to be these new Americans, when did they start telling you that Thanksgiving was um, a holy day for the United States of America? You have to ask yourself that, right? When did they start saying Thanksgiving is an official holy day in the United States of America? Because you got to realize Thanksgiving is not celebrated everywhere in the world. Thanksgiving is not something that people in China are breaking down. Maybe a couple of people who know about it and have been here and decide to share it with people or something like that. But you're not going to see Thanksgiving in Japan. You're not going to see, now you'll see it in Hawaii. There was a time where you wouldn't have seen it in Hawaii, right? You're not really going to see Thanksgiving, believe it or not, that much in Canada, right? Right across what you call the border. You're not really going to see it there. You're not really going to see Thanksgiving in Brazil, even with Brazil, housing the only place that still has outright extreme, extreme. You're right. I know you think there's some extreme ones now, but in Brazil, they have extreme Confederate flag, celebration and worship. It's something that would pale that makes stuff that you think is a big deal here pale in comparison, because you don't know a lot of slave masters took their slaves, left and went to Brazil, and kept on mixing and matching with the people who had already gone through Black Imminta and stuff like that, where there was the whitening of certain people and everybody else being ostracized on the outskirts. You said in Korea they celebrate called a Choseon instead of Thanksgiving. Okay. Yeah, and we're getting into now some stuff that might be people's versions of harvest days or different things, or even if you're talking about Korea, and if it gets into the church, Korea's identification with who they believe the Christ to be is a little different too. They just put it under Christianity, which a lot of people do, right? The mixing of iron and clay. People are very romantic in those values, so they kind of mix and match a bunch of stuff that doesn't go together. But you have to ask once again, for those who are celebrating Thanksgiving, right, especially in the United States of America, when is it that you started celebrating it? If you consider yourself to be an American, or this modern version of what you call an American, because we know the original definition of an American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. That was the original definition of an American. Still in your legal, lawful definitions, a lot of your law books too, but the original definition of an American, which means that many of you are the original American and don't know it, and keep trying to talk about Amerigo Vespucci as if that was his actual name. He changed his name, meaning that he wasn't. That's not why you call the continents of America as America. You call the continents of America America because the people there were considered to be American, right? Or at least the closest thing that they could translate from what we were originally called. Right? That would be us, the copper colored people, right? Some of you are African only, some of you are Israel only, some of you are Israel or African mixed with Native Americans and don't even know it and don't identify it. But but there's something we're missing. I've got to make sure that you catch, right? Who is, right? And I guess somebody decided they're going to play the radio as loud as possible. Hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. But sorry. But what is it? So when we're talking about when was it that you were originally, when was the first time that the United States of America decided Thanksgiving was an actual holiday? Because that helps us with where we are and what people are going to be celebrating, what people are worshiping, and what people are going to go ahead and ignore, as many people have been taught to ignore truth, to make sure that you can have an uneasy peace. Is anybody aware? You said they brainwash you in kindergarten with this. Okay, cool. Okay, in your personal life, I'm talking about in the history, going back to 1776, and the history going back to the 1600s, and the history going back to the 1400s, and the history going back to the 1200s, wherever you want to go, right? When is it that you were told to first start thinking that Thanksgiving was a holiday that was bringing the colonizer and the colonized together? It was after war. Okay, which war? And I'm not trying to come at y'all. I want us to brainstorm. I want us to think about this properly, because somebody's messing with you. 1700s? Not so. Not so. Now, if you're talking about when did some of the events that are being portrayed differently happen, we could say 1700s, even before. 1863, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Let me ask it like this. So I'll say you're in the ballpark, Rhea. How about this? So 1863 was the date that was said. Who would have been the president of the Union, 1860 through 1865? Let's do it like that. Who would have been the president of the Union? Not the president of the Confederacy. That's Jefferson Davis. Who did Jefferson Davis go against? Abraham Lincoln, right? Abraham Lincoln, right? He made it official, right? Abraham Lincoln is the first one to say, and he did this for a particular reason. What do you think happened that made him have to say, let's start celebrating Thanksgiving? Let's make this an official holiday. Now, is he the only person who might have celebrated this or whatever? No, I'm being honest. I don't even have all the particulars about that part, but I'm honing in on a particular place, right? What is it that you think would have happened with Abraham Lincoln to make him say, we should start celebrating Thanksgiving? What was supposedly, like, let's put our sensical caps on. We're talking about kingdom sense, not common sense, right? We're not going to hold your head down as commoners today. We're going to lift you up to the place that you belong when you think on these things and you speak on these things and you're walking around today, right? Okay, so he had declared war on the natives, sure, right? So now that the country is coming together, right? I'm asking for you to put on your propaganda hat. You said, was it the hanging of those 30, or well, if you're talking about the black natives, or you're doing the thing as far as what happened with the not the Iroquois, but not the Haudenosaunee, the Lakota and Dakota people, that's something that would have happened before the Thanksgiving piece. It was meant to be a distraction, exactly, but what distraction from what? What's okay? Watch this. Supposedly, what was supposedly? I know. Somebody like time out, time out. This isn't. I'm telling you, put on your propaganda hat right now. All right. Supposedly, what was the United States Union fighting the war of the South against? What were they fighting against the Confederacy that never was a Confederacy because nobody ever authorized them to be their own Confederacy, right? The only confederacies to really ever exist are the ones that existed with Native folk, right, where we had treaties and stuff. But what is it? What is it that okay? So they're fighting a war against slavery, amen, right? Supposedly, we know that they were fighting basically for the Union to just be able to get control back, right? But they told you they fought for slavery, even though Abraham Lincoln is quoted as saying that wasn't his fight. Matter of fact, he said if he could win the war without freeing the slaves, he would. He said if he could win the war and free the slaves, he would. He said if he could win the war and free some and keep some slaves, he would. Matter of fact, there were still slaves in D.C. and Maryland during the Civil War, right? Abraham Lincoln himself is a slave owner. Matter of fact, people don't know this, but Abraham Lincoln himself was a former slave. He's quoted as saying that there was a law in the books that said that where he grew up, his father beat the mess out of him all the time and was allowed to treat him as a slave. Go do your research on who Abraham Lincoln is. He is a Melungeon. A Melungeon is somebody who has African blood, native blood, and white blood mixed together. That's not my description. That is the description of you know, what he would have called his people, Eurocentric people, would have called him. Right. It was a fight for economic power and control. How you doing, MIT Tracy? But what's going on now is what? We're in this position to where they're fighting and trying to say everybody, hey, everything's fine. Union's getting back in order. Everything's straight. And we just fought against slavery. Now I'm trying to get you to catch this one thing. You said who was black people fighting against? Uh, I don't know. It depends, right? I guess if you're talking about free blacks, some of them thought that they were Americans and fought. A lot of them, if you're talking about, some of my people like Gullah Geechee, or you're talking about Seminoles and people like that, they were obviously fighting the war where you fought for your own freedom and won anyways. If you're talking about Harriet Tubman used the whole thing of Union, actually was a general without ever being given the official title, and freed a whole bunch of slaves on the battlefield that we don't even talk about besides the ones that she was freeing on her own. Or with the help of what they would call the Underground Railroad, et cetera, right? So there's a lot of different stuff, but that's not my focus, at least as of yet, right? I'm trying to get us a focus in this particular place because right, and even what is black back then, what is Negro back then, what is a freedman back then, what is an Israelite? Yes, people actually believed in themselves as being Israel, right? Back then, like there's a lot of different things we could bring up into this conversation, but we're not there yet. Right. I'm trying to get us to a place where we can at least have the same starting point. Thank you for the love. And how you doing, Big Roy? How you doing, Felicia? And how you doing, Frank? Right. So how you doing, Sister Deja? So you have all these people who are in this fight. You have all these people who are in this fight. And now you have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is brought to be able to say, look, we're all coming together at the slavery. Right. That's what we're dealing with. This, okay, we're all coming together after we fought for slavery. Supposedly, that's supposed to be the propaganda. Hey, we fought for slavery, we won. Even though the 13th Amendment says that slavery still exists, we just have to start arresting y'all, and then we can put you right back on the plantation. And that's exactly what they did. Some might even argue that Abraham Lincoln Can't be blamed for that because it was his boy Andrew Johnson, who was his vice president, that once he got off because he wasn't trying to go ahead and deal with the banks, but he wanted to put them greenbacks back in circulation. They took him out the game, or some people say they took him out the game because of racism or whatever you want to argue, whatever. At the end of the day, he wasn't around. So some people might argue, hey, he wasn't the one to do it, even though he put things in place to do it. And he's even quoted in 1858, before he even becomes president, saying how stupid he believes black people to be, and that even if they ever became free, they could never be given the same opportunity as free whites. Right. So I'm with you on all that stuff, but that's not, I needed to focus just for a second, right? Because we can go 7,000 different places, but I'm not sent to go 7,000 different places. I want to show you something specific that the Babylonian benefactor has continued to sow into you, and you will still continue to fight against each other, even in learning truth or fighting for truth, right? How you doing, Radio Prince? So here you have Abraham Lincoln, who's saying, let's get together for Thanksgiving. I find it very interesting, right? When the Holy Spirit led me to say it this way, I said, I was excited because I find it extremely valuable for us to realize that this lie that copper-colored people, or what you might call black people, or Israelite people who are mixed, or people who are written about in Tennessee who kept Israelite values, or people who are written about in Georgia who kept Israelite values, or people who went on the Trail of Tears who kept Israelite values. The list goes on, the Bering Strait, people in Canada, people in Haiti, et cetera, et cetera. I find it very interesting that people don't realize, right, that the original American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. We've talked about that. That's the original definition of an American. Then also, too, a war on slavery, supposedly, a war for slavery, supposedly, the war for slavery is being fought. And now they're saying we want to come together and celebrate the native coming together with the white man, if you will. I'm using colonial constructs, social constructs. Now, why is that extremely important to catch if you don't get it already? The term Negro, right, back then and really forever, has meant people that were Israelite, have meant people from West Africa, even before Spain was a country and had their own language. A lot of y'all forget Spain was not always a country. Thank you for the love. Thank you, appreciate it. Spain was not always a country, right? So Spain learned the term negro or Negro, right, from those who were in Negro land, because the people who were considered to be Negroes were people who were Sephardic Jews. There was no letter J back then, so they didn't call them that, but nevertheless, Sephardic Jews who actually held a specific belief system and were forced during the Inquisition to give up their belief system and become Roman Catholic or become Christian, right? Christopher Columbus went with an Israelite Hebrew interpreter and was able to connect and talk to the people who lived in America, in the Americas, right? And was able to have a conversation with these people that they would call Negroes and say they had Negroid features, right? Right? We're talking about the same people. And a lot of people don't recognize that a Negro, according to law, is considered to be a native or a black person, African person, whatever you want to call it, which means that the Negro, right, is just a catch-all term nowadays, right? Nowadays, the word Negro is supposed to be a catch-all term to tell you that we can be talking about just about anybody, right? Just about anybody can be a Negro if you're black. If you got any, so a native is a Negro. See, this is something they do to try and separate us. But a native was a Negro. A native was enslaved too, right? The Seminole people were not only the Seminole people were not only people who were natives. The Seminole people were people who were free slaves. They were considered to be Negro as well. Oh yeah. We had this weird thing that like they cared about each tribe and they wanted to make sure, which is a very derogatory term, but they cared about each branch of society, each tribe, and they wanted to make sure each tribe was known by name. No, they didn't. They didn't care about that. You called the Iroquois instead of Haudenosaunee. Why? Because they didn't care about your name. I mean, they just finally started calling the Cleveland Indians something different. And people have been telling you that they're not even Indian. We're not even in India. How do you become an Indian and that's not even who you are? And Indian people have been taught to hate themselves and hate us so much. And we've been taught to hate them and hate ourselves so much that we don't even want to be Indian, even though Indian people and African people are the same people too. right? We're dealing with something where we don't realize that the Negro was a catch-all. Everybody who was colored was a Negro. You forget Gandhi. Gandhi hated the Negro. He hated the South African. He hated the Xhosa. Oh yeah, he did. He hated the Zulu. He made it a point to say that you should go read his literature that he wrote. I'm not making it up. He go read the literature that he wrote, and he made it a point to say, hey, just because we're black like them or we're dark skinned, we're not like them. He said you should go ahead and take their women and you should off them in the street. That's what he said about you. See, a lot of us were ignorant of that. That's why Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. supported stuff like that, because he was ignorant at the time. Right? A lot of people were ignorant of Gandhi. A lot of people didn't know. This is why in Ghana, right, you go back home and they tried to put a Gandhi statue up in the West African school. And we said, no, we ain't having that. Knock that thing down with the quickness, right? Because we're not going to have somebody here who doesn't even like us at all and was offing our people and stuff. How dare you put up his statue? That's not somebody for us. How you doing, MIT Jenny? That's not our people. He could care less about our people, right? See, but we don't know. This is why you have people in the Congo who will tell you that Leopold is their uncle. Leopold had black folks strung, forgive my language, just for educational purposes only, but he had black folks strung on strings so much that they said it was like looking at clothing lines. They said like it was unbelievable. Like they had so many people hanging up from their shoulders and stuff like clothing lines. Right. And I'll leave that alone, because to go into that, I probably get kicked off just if I just told the truth about that. But that's real stuff, right? Like we have this weird philosophy, this real thought process where we have this thing. We don't realize who the Negro is. The Negro is somebody who was recognized, and the Negro was a specific type of black person or copper colored person or native person or American. Remember, the original definition of an American is a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. People knew who a Negro was. People knew who a Negro was. People know, a lot of us don't know who a Negro is anymore, but a Negro was not something that was, once again, the most ancient people who use the term Negro for us is us, people in West Africa. Right. And you, when you became Moors and stuff, or even Carthaginians who were Phoenicians, and Phoenicians who were Israelites mixed and stuff as well, right? And Canaanite and all types of stuff. And you started mixing and matching and doing certain things or whatever. And even I'm trying to say Barabbas. That's definitely not the person. Hannibal. I don't know why I was trying to say Barabbas. And Hannibal, right? And Hannibal's father, even, right? But Hannibal Barca, he went up and created a new, out of necessity during the time he was fighting against Rome. He even made a new capital. His capital is in what you call Spain now. Remember, Spain didn't become a country, at least not the Spain that you know of, until 1491. That's why in 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue, because in 1491, the last Moorish king is defeated, right? Queen Isabel and her husband Ferdinand, they now get together. They go to the Pope. They say, hey, can we start having slaves and going after Negroes in particular? And we found the land of Azeroth. Christopher Columbus, Cristobal de Colon, he says that I found this land of Azeroth. Talked about in 2nd Esdras chapter 13, verses 40 through 45. They send him on the way, and they find these same Negroes who are making the same type of weapons as the West Africans that they just fought against. They find these Negroes with the same belief system. They find them where? Right in the Americas, in what you call Haiti. Right? Yeah, you were the treasure. You were the person that was running stuff. They were looking for your knowledge. They were looking for your women. They were looking for your babies. They knew who Negros were. It's interesting that we keep talking about this. See, because there's a difference, right? If I just wanted to say there's some brown folk, I could easily say there's some brown folk over there. What? Marron. En le français, marron. Right? I could easily say marron. Or even if I was looking for somebody and I wanted to say they were black, right? I could say what? They are noir, right? But they didn't say that about these particular people they were looking for. They said, I'm looking for Negroes. Negros. This was a particular people, right? This is not just anybody. This is not just something random. This is a particular people they're looking for, right? And we keep doing this weird thing. You become more African American. How you doing, Omar? You've been, excuse me, you become more African American, even though that didn't exist until the late 70s, 80s. I know some people were, Malcolm X was saying Afro American, kind of, but he wasn't really saying it for the reasons you're saying it. He was saying it more so for political ideology, right? Which, by the way, as much as I love Malcolm, and y'all know I love me some Malcolm, right? But as much as I love me some Malcolm, I don't know. Like, we got to remember, Malcolm is still finding out about himself when they take his life. When he started finding out more about himself and fighting for his people overall, he has stepped away from just being like, hey, everything's going to happen when, no offense to anybody, I'm just saying his particular belief system, when he says Allah is going to go ahead and be the one to determine stuff and we're going to step back. When he starts saying, wait, we have to be interdependent with the Most High and we have to start doing some things, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the United Nations and different things like that. Now we got a problem. Okay, Paul Robeson said it in 1959. That's great. Cool. Was Paul Robeson? Never mind. I'm going to leave that alone out of respect for Paul Robeson, because a lot of people don't even know the name that you brought up. But that's a great point, right? Paul Robeson, I wouldn't say is necessarily indicative of making sure that our people are coming out in our culture 100%, but he is somebody that's willing to say, hey, I'm okay with being called Black or being called, eventually Afro-American, right? But Afro-American, as far as it being used for something for all of your people, right, by your people, exclusively for your people, or hey, call us African American, is something that's new, right? I would definitely say that, right? Like, we can't act like Paul Robeson and was saying that therefore all your grandparents were saying that you were Afro American. We're not. We can look at Marcus Garvey, who was leading a movement that influences Paul Robeson, right? And we can't act, and we have to be honest and say, hey, they weren't saying African American or Afro American back then, right? He was more, matter of fact, Paul, now I'm getting to something a little different. He's talking about African, and he uses the term what? Negro. And you even go back to Garvey. Now, as I'm talking about, you even go back to Garvey, and Garvey pins the national anthem, the real Black national anthem, not Lift Every Voice and Sing, right? That's not the Black national anthem. He pins the actual Black national anthem, what you consider to be the Black national anthem. And you go back and you read it or you listen to it, and he starts talking about who? Israel, Negroes, same people, right? As much as we act like Marcus Garvey didn't care about the Most High, that's not true at all, right? He was dismissing a lot of these preachers because they didn't care about making movement for his people, right? Right. And that's a great point, Sister Shima, because even in all the stuff that we're talking about, at the end of the day, the Negro is not what the Most High said who we are, anyways. Right. But I'm just trying to tell you about this particular thing on the Negro. Why? Because focusing on Thanksgiving, that's why I said I know we can go a whole bunch of places with this, but focusing on Thanksgiving, it's important that you see that that Abraham Lincoln, who, once again, even though he offed his own people, probably did more to damage Native American people than any other president in United States of American history, more than likely, right? But it's important that even in all that, Abraham Lincoln, knowing he needs to put this facade out there, he himself being a Melungeon, knowing his Native American root, African American roots, and European roots, what does he do to try and, what propaganda does he come up with? Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving supposed to celebrate? It's supposed to celebrate the Native and the so-called white man coming together, which means that you have the Negro and the so-called white man coming together, right? Which means that Thanksgiving is something that he was using to say, hey, we just finished fighting against slavery. So guess what? All the Negroes who were in slavery, all the natives, even all the Negroes that came over from Africa, all the natives that were coming over and being traded from the West Indies, all the Negroes that were coming over from South America, right? All the Negroes that had ran up into Canada, and maybe might be making their way back, all the Negroes in the North, all the Negroes in the South, right? What did he say? He's saying in particular, they all have to come back. I'm sorry, can you guys hear me on TikTok? Somebody said it's frozen. I got a green light. So on my end, it looks like it's all right. Can you guys hear me on TikTok? Yes, no, maybe so. Con? Okay. Right. So you have to realize Abraham Lincoln, all right, thank you. So you have to realize Abraham Lincoln is saying specifically, hey, the Negroes, the natives, the Negroes, the black folk. How you doing, MIT Jelani? I mean, Minister Jelani. Then how you doing, J Hill? John? Is it John Caesar or Gene Caesar? Not sure. But welcome on. How you doing, Darius? So what he's saying is the Negroes that are natives and the Negroes that are mixing the natives, remember, they all go into the same breeding camps. Remember, they're all on the same plantation. Remember, they're all like, you know what I'm saying? Sure, did they have certain ones that stood out, Geronimo's and stuff like that, but there came a certain place to where, matter of fact, if you know something about it, we got to be honest too. You know, there were some Negroes who owned Negroes. And I'm not just talking about the ones that they try to say, look at this African guy who owned some slaves, which, by the way, even that's a little overblown because they don't ever talk about the fact that they were African guys who got money and then got slaves, but then let the people be free on their land. Right? We don't ever talk about that part either. But hey, there are some Negroes who actually treated Negroes really badly, including the 5 favored nations who made that walk that I had somebody mention already in the chat. No shade to you. I'm just saying when you mentioned it earlier in the chat, the Trail of Tears. I am at Akitawaya, which is a branch of what you would call Cherokee. Okay. And my people were owned by some of my other people. Matter of fact, it gets really interesting, right, on my father's side, because that's where we're Anakitawaya. And at the same time, it was the Cherokees who actually owned slaves, just like they were uh, uh, um, who are I'm sorry, cousins. Um, I see your statue that's over in Ireland right now, and I can't uh Choctaw, right? The Cherokee, the Choctaw, and many others, right? The Seminole, not so much because we were mixed in, but they had a little bit of it going on too, where some of these nations had decided to fight on the side of the Confederacy, and to do so, they went ahead and started leaning into the stuff that they believed even before the Civil War. So they had slaves and stuff too, right? Now they weren't allowed to have the same prestige as white people, so-called white people did, but they themselves had slaves. So guess what? I come from a place to where in my own family, you had the Trail of Tears to where the Cherokee had to walk across, but then you had the Trail of Tears to where the slave had to walk with his master. And then after they won the war, Abraham Lincoln shortened the amount of territory that they had, which was over in Oklahoma. He shortens that territory, cuts it in half. That's why recently Oklahoma has gotten in that territory, those 5 favored nations, they've gotten twice as much as what they used to have. He had cut their territory in half, and then those who, at the end of the war, those who still had slaves, right? He came up to me, he was like, "You guys can't have slaves anymore." Right? And so you actually can find our people writing out in documents, the African side who was enslaved by the native side, and some of them were natives too that were enslaved by other natives. So it gets complicated now. But basically, you had some of my ancestors that wrote out letters to say, hey, Master came in today and said, we're going to be free. I know what that was. And these are people owned by native groups. So in my own family, I had to deal with the fact that some of us signed up to enslave our own people. That's why we got to be curse breakers. And we have to bring some of this stuff up. You said the hypocrisy is real when we don't want to acknowledge that some of us were definitely sided with the enemy, right? And that's why it's never as simple as black and white. There are certain people that want control and get people. Remember, we've told you one of the most sinister things that happened with chattel slavery was that you had to get so-called white people to believe that white was a thing, because nobody believed that they were white. White is not a color. White means the absence of color, the reflection of color. It means that it's clear, right? It means that it's translucent, but it's not. But white is not a color. That's why polar bears have white fur on the outside, but they have black fur on the inside. The black fur takes the sun, right, and stuff that it needs. The white fur holds out a lot of the heat, but then brings also the sun rays through the clear fur on the outside. So polar bears don't have white fur. Their fur reflects the snow. When the snow goes away, polar bears don't have fur that changes colors. When the snow goes away, you see dirty stuff around them because they have reflective fur, right? If you see a white blood cell, look at a white blood cell. You will find out that you'll never see a white blood cell that looks white. You can see through the cell. You see, there's no such thing as a white person. I don't care how little bit of melanin you have, right? At the end of the day, there's no such thing as a white person. Matter of fact, if you know how this works, the only reason why you had the different colors that you have is because you have different, like if you have different color eyes. Let's say you have dark brown eyes, you just have more melanin. Somebody gets less melanin, guess what? They get blue eyes, they get green eyes. That's how that works. Somebody says, man, your eyes are set up to your eyes change colors. Well, it's because of the sun, sure, but it's also because of certain things. When you have lack of melanin, now we can actually see more things on the inside of your eye specifically. So it's reflecting. Right now, white has become a status. And how you doing, Tuckwa? Right? So it become a status, but you had to get supposed white people to agree on it. That's why a lot of Irish people from Ireland can't stand a lot of Irish Americans, because Irish people don't want to be referred to as white because they still fighting for their land in Ireland. See, there's a Northern Ireland and an Ireland. Northern Ireland, and look up some pictures, by the way. You'll find some interesting pictures of people that are just sitting there with guns and stuff, and you like, what's going on? Like, people, Irish people going through their regular day, and you see like all these English soldiers with guns and everything. You're like, what in the world is going on? It's because that you had Northern Ireland that was still taken over, and Ireland was trying to fight for its freedom. Ireland got its freedom, but you still have Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland doesn't belong to Ireland. Northern Ireland still belongs to the UK. The UK still is over not only the England, but it's still over Scotland. It's still over Ireland, and still over forgive me, why am I forgetting this other one? Ireland, Scotland, and somebody else. And they still have a bunch of colonies too. And Wales, thank you. And Wales, right? So you still have a lot of this stuff going on, right? How you doing, Sister Sheila? And the Negro is something that was known the whole time, right? That's why the Irish folk don't like to be considered to be white, because Irish people are like, not only did we go through what y'all went through, they don't even want to do the whole comparison thing out of respect. But they're like, we went through, not only did we go through certain things, they studied Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and actually protested and did stuff the way that he did, and then she actually ended up having bloody, was it Bloody Sunday or Bloody Friday, whatever it is, where they were shot up in the streets and stuff like that of Ireland and all that stuff. People don't want to talk about these things. People don't want to be honest about these things. People don't want to have real conversation about it, honest dialogue about it, right? Like we don't want to have real honest conversation about it. But these are things that really have taken place. How you doing, Minister Moselle? You see, so Thanksgiving was a distraction. It was to say that, hey, black folk or Negroes and white people get along. But they didn't focus on what you think. You think that it's about the Negro is only the African, when the reality is they're saying the Negro was the first one that they're dealing with in what they call America now. They're talking about the native, who is you as well. Whether you want to say you were them back then or not, at the end of the day, you the same people. You were mixed in with each other. You were enslaved with each other. You live in the same places, and then have the audacity to argue with one another, right? Hate on one another, say that you're not the same people, but then celebrate Thanksgiving. See, that's why I wanted to go through all that stuff to get us to this point where we can focus in on Thanksgiving now. And how you doing, Gathering of Christ Church? How you doing, child of God? Thanks for being part of the community. You said melanin does affect the color of the iris. You ain't lying. Yeah. I mean, that's just a fact. How you doing, Sister Knight? You know, so that's the reason why somebody, if they got blue eyes, they have blue eyes because it's just less melanin. They have green eyes, there's less melanin. They have light brown eyes, less melanin. You're seeing the sun do things off of stuff that you normally wouldn't get the sun to, because the sun, melanin, it doesn't reflect the sun, but it blocks the sun somewhat. It absorbs while blocking at the same time. It's like if you take cayenne pepper is a natural remedy or food, right? So if you were to take blood thinner will mess you up. We're fine, it'll thin the blood, but then you can't, make sure that you heal and that you clot correctly. But if you take cayenne pepper not only will thin the blood, but then when it needs to, it will also clot, because it's natural, right? Your body does that. Your body, if it has melanin, your melanin, it absorbs sun, but at the same time protects you, which is why you got to be in the sun longer than other people. Thank you, Sister Sheila. Right. So we're getting back to Thanksgiving now. And Thanksgiving was made to be a distraction, to distract you. Once again, remember the origin of Thanksgiving, the actual Eurocentric origin of Thanksgiving was what? It was made to be a time of fasting. And now you think of Thanksgiving as being a time to eat, in which the colonizer who has gotten freedom and is now trying to say he gives freedom to the Negro is saying, let's all come together and sit down and eat. You see that? With that within itself, we already have a lie, right? We already have a lie. This Babylonian benefactors Babylon keeps giving you these holy days, and you keep on sitting down and you keep on eating at the table. Before we go into the history of this and that and all this other stuff and the histrionics and arguing over this and what this person was named and that person was named and this and that, first things first, let's get to the place to where this was a distraction and a lie that was put together by your president, who sets precedents. That's what presidents do, is they set a precedence. They work for other people, and even not as much. I'll give a little more credit. Back then he would have had more of a wide berth, but he still worked for other people, and there were people that wanted you to go ahead and say that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so you as a people still to this day are trying to argue why it is that you should go ahead and have Thanksgiving. Once again, not even realizing that the term Thanksgiving does not mean to be thankful. It is a ancient English term, right, or a Middle English term that tells you that you are fasting. If you had met somebody in Europe, right, and still to this day in a lot of places in Europe, and you say today is a time of Thanksgiving, they would say, "Oh, okay, when are we going to fast?" That's just the way it is. The original term for Thanksgiving, even in your Bible. So you got to be careful because your Bible is not written in modern English either. So when it says enter into his courts with enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise, it's saying first things first. When you come into his gates, when you come into Israel, when you come into this, when you come into where you're getting closer to where the king resides, first things first. Enter in and let go of a lot of stuff. Fast from some things. You cannot keep doing the same thing. Thanksgiving and then enter into his courts with what? With praise. He says, so you're not wrong for wanting to fast during the holy day. Well, it's not our holy days, number one, right? Matter of fact, well, I won't say every single one, but a lot of our holy days are actually feast days, right? So, or days where we would have been given an offering, right? So our holy days operate different. You should be fasting at certain times for sure, right? But we don't have anything that says because it's a holy day, you should fast, right? I mean, Feast of Tabernacles we just came out of, we didn't fast. It's a feast, right? You eat, right? You treat the first day and the eighth day of Shabbat, but you still eat together, feast, right? Go backwards, Day of Atonement. What do? Right? Well, you should have been having an offering and people would have come together to eat and stuff like that, but more so would have been praying, right? Maybe you would think about fasting or something like that, but no commandment given to fast. Go back some more, Feast of Trumpets. What do? It's a feast, right? Go back, Shavuot, right? Pentecost. We come together on one accord, praying, stuff like that. We also would have had certain food. We would have feasted, right? Go back some. You got the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's for 7 days after what? Passover, where we eat a specific meal. So the whole thing of fasting on for a particular holy day, those aren't our holy days. Even for those of you who try to add in Purim, which is not a commandment by the Most High, but is something that Israelites did uphold, even in your Bible, it's in there, right? We haven't started doing it yet. We'll probably start doing it next year. But even in that, what do? You come together, you celebrate, you feast. How you doing, Denise? Thanks for being on. And Shell, hopefully I said that correctly, Shell. Right? How you doing, Sister Nadine? So we have this thing going on. How you doing, Ray Ray? Where we are believing in something that somebody else told us, and we don't have anything. Forget just biblically, even though that's hard. Let me not be disrespectful. Forgive me, Father. Uh, if we could even set that to the side for the sake of argument, for the sake of conversation, we have to realize that something doesn't make sense because Thanksgiving didn't even exist. And if you're saying now, once again, somebody might say this is an American holiday, but once again, which American? Now we're getting this. Now we're getting a little deeper, right? Now we're getting a little deeper. How you doing, Spiritual Rebel? How you doing, Elizabeth? And I can't say your name, but was it Pro something Posta? If that's however you would say your name. Thanks for being on. It looks like you might have some difference of opinion. That's okay. You know, I might have missed whatever you guys were saying, but hopefully you're doing well. And thanks for being on. Right. But these are some things that we don't want to have honest dialogue about. That it's very apparent that Thanksgiving is not something that's American, especially if you're talking about the original American, which is what is the definition of an original American again? according to law. According to law. What is the definition of an original American again? Right? Let's stop acting like we're talking about the same thing. I'm not talking about common sense today. I'm talking about kingdom sense. Right? I'm not talking about something that I'm arguing because of a feeling or an emotion, even though for real, if that's what you want to do, fine. But in this conversation, your feeling might be feckless. It might be something that we're not supposed to necessarily let guide the entire conversation. Right? I respect your feelings. I respect your right to feel however you want to feel. I respect your right to be able to speak whatever you want to speak. Right? But I'm not here to speak my truth or your truth. I'm here to speak the truth. I have to honor Amat. Right? Even for those of you who look for Amat, fine. We got to honor truth. Right? So if we're talking about truth, hey, how you doing, Sister Betty? Then we have to be honest. Thanksgiving was made to be a distraction, and it still has become a distraction. Right? People will work like, and I'm not sure what you guys' work schedules are like anymore, or whatever, or not anymore. But like I'm not sure what you guys are doing. If you have a 9 to 5, if you got to do this, do that, whatever the case might be, right? But let's keep it a buck. Many of your lives are centered around trying to make it to Thanksgiving, trying to make it to Christmas. You're on these holy days. And we talked about this before. The Israelite holy days are going to be basically between April and October, basically, right? Like give or take a little bit, but in that range. Their holy days are going to basically be October, right, till April, right? Give or take a little bit. So they're going to go they're going to go Hallows Eve, right, getting ready to go into Ishtar, and we're going to go, removing the leaven from our home, Nisan, New Year, 14th day of, Nisan 14, if you will, the 14th day, getting to where we are supposed to have Passover. If some of you didn't know what Nisan 14, that's actually what it is. It's the 14th day of the year for us. That's when we do Passover. And then from that point on, we keep doing our holy days and keeping them through the Feast of Tabernacles, usually the beginning of October. How you doing, Fatal Pros? So if you're going to talk about Thanksgiving, you have to talk about Thanksgiving within whatever way. So first of all, Thanksgiving is supposed to be a day of fasting. So we're already messed up. First things first. Like if we're gonna keep it a buck, or can we keep it 100? If we're gonna keep this thing for real, like if we're gonna be honest, first things first. Thanksgiving is not for what? Thanksgiving is not what you think it is. Thanksgiving is supposed to be to not eat. Many people are going to eat today, but if you're going to celebrate Thanksgiving, you should at least make sure that you celebrate Thanksgiving. And maybe you're just not aware of what Thanksgiving is. So I'm just here to shed some light and to remind you. I've been sent today to shed some light and remind you that maybe you might want to turn your plate up. Right? It probably isn't the best thing for you to be busting out your body so much that you have to loosen your belt loops. You know what I'm saying? It might not be the best thing for you to be in a situation to where you busting out your body so much you had to loosen up your belt loops. Right? That's not healthy. You see what I'm saying? Like it's probably not the best thing for your children to have it put into them, at a very young age, that we don't come to see each other, and then when we do, we make sure that we are doing something that could hurt somebody. That people are going to show up to Thanksgiving with EpiPens. Yeah, it's become a day of gluttony. Like this real talk. People are going to show up today with EpiPens, right? The cognitive dissonance, the double-mindedness that exists is astounding, where people will come today and know that they're going to do something that could possibly take them out, but yet it's us coming. That's how we come together as family. I don't think we even catch the mindset that literally, forgive my using this word or whatever, I won't use it too often on certain social media platforms. They don't want us to use this term, so please forgive me. I will not use it that often, but we literally are coming to a table set up for death and not even seeing that that's what actually happened. When you guys see that picture of Thanksgiving that's on the wall, that famous picture of the natives, right? So it depends on which one, because they're now we don't even know the truth. But there's some that actually tell the truth. And when you look at the paintings or the depictions, you see that you have what they try to call the Puritans, which weren't even called that back then, right? But supposedly these Puritans are sitting down at the table, and then you have natives. Look carefully at some of the pictures, though, you'll see that there's no Native American women, and you'll see that Native American, in some of the pictures, they don't even have vegetables, right? But they just have venison. The reason is because when they sat down at their table, the one that they're trying to show you, right? When they sat down at the table, and that's going back to Squanto. We'll talk about Squanto. To Squantum is his real name, but you guys know him as Squanto because of one side of the narrative. But when you see him at that table, sitting down to feast, there's only Native men that would have shown up because they were putting together a treaty. They did not trust the other people. You don't put together a treaty. I know sometimes people put together treaties with their friends as far as being friendly countries, but the reality is you put together treaties, right? Most of the time because you're dealing with an enemy. Somebody's been conquered, or somebody looks like they could conquer, or two sides are saying, okay, we don't even want to go down that route. So let's sit down and let's put some paperwork together so that we can have something lawfully in place that protects both sides. And neither side on honor. See, now we got to deal with the dishonorable side of this eventually. But on the principle, on our principles of being honored, men of honor, men of valor, right? Women of honor, women of valor. We should be able to sit down and we should be able to have this conversation. We should be able to put this on paper, and we trust, right? And we trust even that people like Squanto will do what they're supposed to do and make sure that we're protected. See, now we got to get into a whole bunch of stuff that's being mixed in because, see, Squanto is way before 1860s. How you doing, Miss Q? Right? How you doing, Sister Beverly? How you doing, Liberation? How you doing, Angela? Thanks for being part of the community. Now, if we go to Squanto, by the way, right? And thanks for being on user 947001001608603. How you doing? How you doing, Angela? Right? You said no natives had words for lies till other colonists came. A lot of native tribes didn't. I wouldn't say none because we know even with the Haudenosaunee people, we had a lot of interesting stuff that happened with those tribes coming together and how peace had to make sure that he put that stuff together too. But, you know, we definitely can say that there was some stuff going on that was not something that we, you know, did and didn't honor. You know, once again, I'm not going to make it as simplistic because it's not as simplistic as like all white people that are there, or all black people, or all native people, or all Israelite, or all, you know, whatever we would try to throw in there. Right? It's not as simple as that. And how you doing? Is it Natisha? Natisha? Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, from Pennsylvania. So we have all these things that are going on. This is the reality, right? And that's why we say there's a spirit, or if you don't like the word spirit, then you like to go to the Greek. Well, let me give you two Greek words that'll help you out. Actually, kind of sort of three Greek words, but, you know, we'll talk about the physiological, right? That one's the kind of sort of one. You know what that one means. But also, what about the psychological? If you don't know the word psyche in the Greek, Psyche, you say psyche, it means soul. And then let's talk about the pneuma, or the pneumatical thought. What does pneuma mean? Pneuma means the Stoic thought that marries the spirit, body, and soul together. So even though we might want to change what words mean, here we're very strict on etymology. If that's what the word meant, especially if you're talking about a particular time, we should not change it from what it meant to try and make it fit our narrative, right? Because that's when you get into what you call an ideal, IDEAL, right? An ideal is something that you're creating to support your own narrative. And that's not what we come here today. I'm not coming here to support my narrative. I'm coming here to just tell you what is, right? Oh, I don't know which one I said second. I think Natisha is the one I said second, but thank you for being forgiving. All right. Now, how you doing, Sister Valerie? So, and thank you for everybody on all the platforms. If you're coming over from the podcast, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we appreciate you so very much. Thank you so much for being on with me. And I think we're ready to go. You're back on track. I tried to come on for a little bit, and then I had to take another day under direction to make sure I was, well, it might be TMI, but my body was going through some stuff. But I should be back and ready to go. I was told I needed to make sure that I took another day. But yeah, so we were speaking on these things. And how you doing, Donald? Thanks for being part of the community. When we're speaking on all these different things that are going on, we have to admit some things. So do you know who Squanto is? Now, I know who you were told in school, if you were even told in school. I don't know what they teach nowadays, but, you know, Squanto is taught to, literally, as much as people say don't believe in God, which I don't believe in God, I believe in Elohim. That's two different cultures, but nevertheless, right? Thank you, Dr. Knight. I'm here to tell you, a lot of people talk about their belief in God or this and that or whatever. A lot of people don't know who Squanto is, but Squanto is taught through a very Christian lens. Yeah, that feels like they don't teach anything in school, right? Squanto is taught through a very Christian lens. This is what most of you have been taught about Squanto, right? His real name to Squantum, people don't even know that. But what you've been taught about Squanto is the United States was basically under the direction of savages. By the way, in French, the word sauvage or le français sauvage is wild. It just means you're wild. So if they call you savage, they called you savage because they said you were wild. Wild just means you don't fit into their uh, version of what a community is or their version of what a society is. Okay. So if somebody says you wildin', what are you saying? You don't fit into society, right? Hello, Shalom. Maybe we can get into that for a little bit. We already talked about second estrus a tiny bit. Maybe we can try to jump back in there at some point. Right now, that's not necessarily my focus, but thank you so much for the question. I get why, but just if you don't mind, I'm going to do what I'm sent to do, and we'll see how it rolls from there. Thank you. So how you doing, Gertrude? And it's on recording too. So if you want to go back and listen to the recording, we have a YouTube channel. And if that doesn't answer it, then you can feel free to, maybe we can set up something to talk, or maybe I can bring it up some other time. Matter of fact, I'll take a screenshot of it just in case I don't get to it today. And if you do want to look at it down the road or ask a question, because the next 2 days are going to be Q&A, tomorrow and Saturday. So, and then we'll end this series called Babylonian Benefactors series. So if you'd like to go ahead and go that route, you can. But where we are today, hold on. So where was I at now? Squanto. So the way Squanto is taught in schools is simply this. Hey, the Puritans showed up, and they just showed up randomly. They were just looking for the new world. They just wanted to be free. And they wanted to make sure they got away from people who were taking away their religious rights to worship the Christian God. And they got over here, right? Landed on Plymouth Rock, which is a lie. There's no such thing as Plymouth Rock. But nevertheless, right? They came over, right? They have Plymouth Rock. They sell tickets for you to be able to go and actually stand at Plymouth Rock. There's no such thing as Plymouth Rock, right? But basically they came over and they landed on Plymouth Rock, right? And then when they landed there, what happened? Oh, thank you, Minister Lashava. I'm getting there. Better. How you doing, Warren? And thank you for the love. And how you doing, Sahara? So they said they got over to Plymouth Rock. They land on Plymouth Rock, and when they landed there, they just wanted to go ahead and have religious freedom, and they didn't know how to till the land, and things were getting pretty bad for them, and they didn't know what they were doing, and they were getting ready to pass away. How you doing, Sister Also? Did I say hello earlier? I'm not sure, but they were just trying to make it, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they were blessed to find Squanto, and Squanto just so happened, or sometimes they won't even say so happened. They actually taught, this is how they taught us. They said Squanto was blessed by Jesus, and he could speak English. That's literally how we were taught. I don't know if that's how y'all were taught, right? But that's how we were taught. We were taught literally in school. Like basically, if you look, they didn't say it exactly like that, but they basically were like, yeah, the Puritans loved Squanto. He was a blessing. He just so happened to be able to speak English. And so they said that it had to be God who sent Squanto to them or whatever to help them to be able to take over the land, manifest destiny stuff. Some of y'all were taught like that. Some of y'all might not even remember, but that's how they taught us in our good education. Oh, thank you, Frank. Appreciate you. Right? They said he traded in the South and all that. Now watch this. You know that Squanto was not the first in real life. He was not the first Native American that they met that could speak English. Y'all know that, right? And why do you think he wouldn't be the first Native American that they would meet to speak English? Matter of fact, why do you think there would be multiple Native Americans that could speak English? Because what you call the West Coast of America, the 13 original colonies, all this stuff, for real, right? For real, what happened? And how you doing, Sister Taylor? I think it's sister. I apologize if it's not. Um, for real, what happens is this. You know, what you now call the United States of America, for the English, they sent riffraff over there. It was a prison colony. You guys know that, right? It should get you to think about some of the things that happened in the United States of America. Well, you had some commercial trading too, right? I won't act like that wasn't the thing. You're absolutely right. But you know, it was a prison colony already, right? They didn't send the Puritans over there because they were pure, and it wasn't just Puritans coming over, and they didn't even call themselves Puritans, or at least others didn't call them Puritans. These were people that the king at first wanted to off, right? There was a Protestant movement. King Henry VIII had taken over. The kings at that point were doing the Protestant thing as a fu to the Roman Catholic Church, right? And they offed a lot of people. They didn't have prison structures, but they had a lot of crime because the people weren't treated correctly. And so whenever you have poverty, guess what the language of the oppressed is? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught you this. It's looting. But not only did the English people loot, they also stole all the time. They did a lot of different things. There was a lot of murder. There was a lot of high crime rate because people were just trying to make it in any way, shape, or form. They were living like animals out there on the streets. Right? Like I don't think people even recognize. Like, people were still in a lot of ways, stuff was just really crazy in the street. For example, here's something. Right now, you got to live in certain places to even know what I'm talking about with this. But anybody lived, brownstone areas, where black folk used to live a lot, and we kind of got kicked out recently. But you ever lived in like Brooklyn? You ever lived in Hell's Kitchen, something like that? You ever lived in Bmore, Chi-Town? Somewhat, you have some places like this to where it's not the door is not on the ground. Harlem, right? But the door is not on the ground. You ever lived in a place like where the door is not on the ground and everybody in your area has steps to get up to their house, right? In certain places in the United States of America and in Europe, you see a lot of that, where you'll have certain neighborhoods where all of them, matter of fact, you can kind of see behind me, if you're looking at a certain angle on TikTok, where you see even in the back of some of these places, there's steps right there going up, right? Well, one of the reasons that people don't even tell you that exists, right, is because you had horses all over the place. I want you to know that conditions are not always as great as what you think they are. We have this weird thing, especially they tell you, that basically the Renaissance happened, and everybody was living in dark times, right? The Dark Ages, as if we were living in the Dark Ages. Our Dark Ages came when people pulled the wool over our eyes, right? But they tell you were living in dark times and in dark ages and this and that or whatever. No. These people, they had stuff. And the reason why you had these places that went up high is because the streets were filthy, right? Matter of fact, go look up the history of places like San Francisco, which I believe you have some of that still, not as much. But you used to have it to where the stuff went up the hills and stuff like that. But you'll see, even in places like that, look up the history of San Francisco, how it was so dirty, right? It was so much waste, um, horse waste, human waste, right? Animal waste all over the streets and stuff, right? Where people were just, it was disgusting to walk outside. Now, did it remain like that, through the whole thing? Am I saying it was like that everywhere? No. But there are a lot of places, especially when people were building. But you have even places like, for example, people always talk about the poverty of Baltimore, but people forget, one of the best horse races that still exists is in Baltimore, where people are paying easily, what, $3,000 a ticket, something like that, to be able to be in the cheap seats, right? Or when you have, what's the one everybody talks about? The Kentucky Derby, stuff like that. Everybody paying thousands upon thousands and stuff like that. But they used to have all types of stuff. Yeah, you had the cold and all those different things, right, going on. But the reason why you had those not all of them, I can't say every single one, right? But I'm saying a lot of places in Europe and a lot of Eurocentric places, they did that. They put those steps up because waste would get so bad that people didn't want to be sitting up there and waste. So they literally built the houses up higher and the entryway into the house up higher so that you wouldn't have to deal with always being on the same level as waste. Yeah. See, 'cause it doesn't. To be honest, it doesn't make sense to have a place that has steps to just walk up. But we don't even think about it, right? We were just kind of born and raised with it. And so, and literally, if a horse would pass, this is how crazy stuff got. If a horse would pass away, right? If a horse would lose its life, you weren't allowed to just go ahead and take the horse and remove it. You had to wait for the horse to decompose to a certain degree. Then somebody would come, they would cut the horse into pieces, and then they would take the horse away. So you'd have if a horse, if you were in a place like Baltimore or something like that, and horse just happened to be around, right, and it passed away, what do? You pick up the horse, right? Or you can't pick up the horse, you got to wait for it. So everybody's got to walk around a whole horse that's decomposing, all kind of disease and everything in the air. And then finally, when it gets to a point, and you can go look, there's laws in the books still to this day in certain places because they had to start putting those laws in the books back then. The only reason why that stuff starts going away is because you end up getting the Model T, right? Ford comes along, right? And so now you don't need it. Now the air is blackened for a different reason, right? Now you got other stuff that they have to come up with for different. But up until then, you had horse stuff all over the place. All the houses were supposed to have. That was the way it was. Not because, see, now it's a sign of stature, but that's not where it started. It started somewhere completely different. It started because you had stuff that was just in the street, and you had all this craziness, and so people built their house up high. We wouldn't even think about that now. Right? One of those homes, you can tell it's an older home because you got the steps to go up, but that's the reason why the steps go up like that, or that's the reason why people started at one point building steps like that in certain places. Not every single place. I know somebody gonna go, well, I found in this particular area that, yeah, okay, I get it, right? I'm just trying to tell you, there's more to the situation than what you think. And just like that, right, we have some things like Thanksgiving that are built a little higher, and we're not realizing that the reason that we're thinking that this is higher or this Thanksgiving thing is a real thing is because there's a lot of stuff that used to be on the ground, and now that we don't necessarily have to walk in some of those same things, we want to act like the other stuff wasn't there, right? We forget, right? Or we're trying to forget, but why would you forget? Matter of fact, let me ask you like this: is it actually feasible to forget what somebody's done if it's still in your face? They're not asking you to forget, they're asking you to ignore. See, I wouldn't have a problem with forgetting if forgetting was, okay, I'm going to forget, you know, I'm going to relieve myself of vitriol I would spew towards you, which I have, by the way. Right? I've forgiven. That's not the issue. But nobody ever talks about once somebody forgives somebody, then when do you build up trust? And this is the thing that I don't like. Because if you lie to me partially, you're lying to me, period. Right? Our babies even get that when we teach our babies. If you lying to me partially, you're lying to me, period. You see? So you want me to forget, but it's still in my face. That's not how that works. Because if anybody comes to me and says, "Hey, why is your house built up with them steps going up?" Right? And I say, "Well, I don't know." Somebody says, "Oh, it's not important anymore." No, it's important because I might need to know why the structure is built like that. If I ever want to rebuild it, there might be a reason why the whole city might be built on a different path. And if I try to do something different, I could really jack up my house and maybe mess up somebody's house that might be attached to the same house. If you live in a brownstone, you see what I'm saying? Like, this thing is built on some craziness. So back to Squanto. They will teach that Squanto just so happened to be able to speak English. But here's the reality is that America was a prison colony. Yes, was there trading and stuff going on? Sure. Could you go back to Leif Erikson? Sure. Could you go back to the West Coast and the Chinese people have actually been coming and Russia have been coming? Sure. Could you talk about natives, obviously, that were here? Sure. Could you talk about Africans that were already doing trade? Now, they probably aren't doing as much trade in what you call the United States of America, but in Mexico and in Cuba and in Haiti and in Dominican and in Puerto Rico and stuff. Oh, yeah, there's trading. Don't talk about South America. We never bring up South America as if South America doesn't have relation with Mali and places like that. We know this for a fact. And then don't even get us started because now some of our Native American brethren who have been taught to hate each other, they definitely don't want you to go into Dr. Ivan von Serta, right? We may or may not even get into him, right? But here we are just simply discussing some stuff and realizing that there's some stuff that's there. See, Squanto spoke English, right? Because not only was there trading that was going on, sure. Not only was there prison colony stuff that was going on, but a lot of people never tell the truth. Now, we're talking about Squanto, we're talking 1600s. So we're talking even further back than what some of you might think I'm talking about. Not only is Squanto somebody who's evidence that there was trading, not only is he evidence that there's people there that were being sent to prison colony, right? And by the way, if you don't believe that America was a prison colony, there's another place that was a prison colony as well. Matter of fact, it wasn't just America, it was Canada too. Canada and America were all the colonies. You forget, it wasn't just 13 original colonies. There's only 13 original colonies that broke away completely. There were at least 15 that were going to break away. There were more than 15, but there were at least 15 that were going to break away going up into Canada. But those two up top said, hey, is anybody going to come support us with the Britain? Because they're coming to us first. Other colonies said, no, we ain't with it. Well, they said, we're not breaking away then because we're not going to die. You're not going to take our life. But there's another prison colony, and it's called Australia, right? And that's what, and they guess what they did to the natives the same way they did to Canada, did to them in Canada, same thing they did to them in the United States of America, same thing they did to them in Mexico or Mexico. But really, it would be Mexico because of the Olmec-She dynamic, right? These are things that are real. How you doing, Marky? And people don't like it when you bring it up. But once again, it's in my face and you want to tell me, forget about it. But how do I forget, right? It's like real talk. This would be like when people say, just forget it. Just forget it ever happened. If you were in a relationship and whoever your significant other is cheated on you, right? I pray that it doesn't happen. But let's just say, unfortunately, stuff like that happens. Some of you probably dealt with that before. But let's say I'm in a relationship with somebody and my significant other cheats on me. Right? Really, in this regard, in this situation, we probably say it more like this. I'm in a relationship and somebody comes into a relationship with my significant other and they SA them. Right? And then they say, well, forgive me for SAing them. And somewhere in me, even though I want to take your life, I find it somehow, some way that the only real thing I really have at this moment is to forgive you because of the situation that I'm in, because you could take my life anyways. So I say for the time being, of course, well, first of all, I'm going to let it, I'm not going to do anything to you and I'll forgive you. But then you say, oh yeah, by the way, though, I'm still going to live in your house and I'm still going to have access to everything. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what you can have access to, and I'm still going to whistle at your, significant other. I'm still going to call them all types of names. I'm still going to smack them when they walk past and stuff, little stupid stuff like that. But, I need you to forget it. Forget it. Like, it would be one thing if I never saw you again and I'm trying to forget it. But you're still in my house and you're still mismanaging my significant other and you still have never apologized for it. You won't even explain why you did it. Matter of fact, you won't admit that the only reason why you have the house is because that you worked me to the bone while SAing my significant other. But you say forgive. I forget. Forgiveness is not the problem. We have trust. And you still put it in my face. And if I say I would like to be able to talk about it, and we need to talk about it because I basically need you to get to a place where you realize that you have messed up the sanctity of my home. And if you want to at least leave my home for a little bit to allow me to get myself together, then I'm gonna have a problem. And somebody says, no, you're the problem. See, you're bringing it up. You're the reverse racist. Yada yada yada. But no. My issue is that you're still in my house. You catch me? Right? My issue. You see what I'm saying? And I haven't had a chance to heal and be whole. And you won't. And then you won't even let me go to get the healing because you say I should just go ahead and get over it. That's one of the worst things you could ever tell somebody who's a victim of anything. See, I don't like people when you're disingenuous. I get it. Some of the greatest motivational speakers out there will tell you, hey, you're gonna have to find a way to get over it. No. You'll find a way to get past it. You'll find a way to survive, but you're not going to thrive until you have something broken. Right? And I'm not the one. Look, I believe I'm gonna be very careful in my word uses because people try to twist your words all the time. I'm one who straight up believes, no ifs, ands, or but about it, that you have to be obedient to the Bible. And Revelation 12 says that you're gonna have to separate at some point. You're gonna have to sow into each other's businesses at some point. That's Jeremiah 29:11. Y'all love Jeremiah 29:11, but nobody talk about the fact that says that you're gonna have to build each other's businesses and have real marriages and get some real healing, even in the midst of your captivity. So when it's time to be released, you guys actually are already used to each other, used to doing things correctly, having your culture down, treating each other with respect. Right? There's certain things that have to happen, but we don't even want to deal with the stuff that we're still dealing in so much disrespect towards one another because we've never healed of a lot of different things. I haven't used this analogy in a long time. Ta-da, Holy Spirit gave this to me a long time ago. She said, can you imagine for those of you, and look, I know all of us don't play games. I'm not even that great at it, but I know a lot of you don't necessarily gamble or play games, or maybe you've never done it in your life before. I've played card games, different ones before. There's a card game named Blackjack 21, right? Let's say like this. Let's say, and this is why we got to get to this and get some of these lies off of us and start saying, what are we going to build together? Okay, you ready? Here's one of the problems that you have is that you're dealing with people who are in prison colonies, right? Who literally were prisoners themselves, who were kicked out of their countries and built whole nations based off of them not being treated right themselves, right? Let alone believing that it was all right to therefore mistreat others and do prison things that get you in prison colonies, to have those people as people who got sent to prison colonies now make up what you call is supposed to be what the free world's supposed to look at. People talking about, look at America. We need America to get it together. America, we got to have a strong America in order for the world. No. America is not a strong America. America, is, in a sense, is strong to the point where they strong-armed a whole group of people that started taking over everybody else because you went ahead and put them in a position to where they were able to go ahead and use Christianity to support their prison mentality. Right? But look, let's say that we go to play blackjack. And let's say, and I'm just using this as an example. I know that it's not just hopefully you get the context, okay? Before somebody starts trying to move me off, or if somebody's really frustrated or whatever. You're playing blackjack. Let's say you come in there and there's somebody who represents white people. And he's got $1 million in chips. And you got somebody in there that represents Chinese people. And they come in there and they got 200,000. And you got somebody who represents India. And India given there, they got $100,000 worth of chips, right? And you got all these different people, right? And then here comes you, your diaspora. And you come in there and it's supposed to be $50,000 a hand. So we're not at the regular table. We're not at the commoners table. We talking about not common sense, we talking about kingdom sense. Right? And so here you are coming into this room. And this is what happens with our people, whether you're talking about grafting or our people by blood, whatever. We walk in, this is what we do all the time. We're so busy looking for handouts. You walked in, you didn't know this place existed. How you doing, Minister Tamach? You didn't know this place existed. Now here you are walking in. Praise Yah that you found it. But you didn't know it existed. You didn't know the rules. You didn't know the regulations. Right? And here you are walking into this room. Right? Here you are walking to the Bellagio. Here you are at Ocean, or what is it? Ocean something up on the East Coast, whatever. Here you are walking into, native places somewhere in the middle of Oklahoma. Here you are walking into just went there not too long ago. What's that place in the DMV? And it's got the big Ferris, or not Ferris wheel, but y'all know, whatever that big wheel is or whatever. And you got the place, my father and them be going over there, whatever that is. But here you are wherever, and you walk into this place and you're saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and gamble. And then you found out, wait a minute, there's this room that I didn't even know. You just so happened to walk back there and like, oh, there's this room, there's a space that nobody goes. Now, these places really exist in real life, and they can't stop you, right, from being able to go back there. right? But you can go in these places and you can go and you can gamble, but they have a certain amount of money. You got to be able to gamble each time. Matter of fact, if you don't know what you're doing, I've had this happen to me before where you don't know what you're doing. You try to sit in with some folk and you start gambling and they get mad at you because they're like, you don't know how to play. You're wasting our time. You know what I'm saying? Like they're there's levels to this, right? And so they literally, they're not so much upset with you. At first, they're kind of looking at you because they're like, you don't really belong here. But it's not even just that, right? Because you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to nod the right way, you don't know how to walk, you don't know how to make a gesture. Like there's a whole culture, right? When you talking about another level, a lot of people keep trying to go to another level, and you haven't learned the culture yet of what happens. You trying to do stuff, but you haven't learned to even think like generational wealth, let alone start doing things differently, right? You're sitting up there talking about 9 to 5 stuff, and these people are sitting up there like controlling money. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going into places. How you doing, Bounty? Right, and we're playing games that maybe you shouldn't be playing, right? But you might not have the training. But then you go back there, right? So let's say it's $50,000 a game. That's minimum. Here you are, your people only got 25,000. This happens to us all the time. And so you don't realize that you only got 25,000 for a 50,000 minimum mentality. So what happens? You go back there and what goes on? You go, man, well, how'd you get back there? Well, if it wasn't, you wouldn't have had 1 million, and you wouldn't have had 200,000, and you wouldn't have had 100,000 if it wasn't for us. So give us some money. And everybody started looking around the table like, I mean, what you saying, I guess is true, but we don't care right now. See, and I'm just trying to keep it a buck with you. It's not a personal thing, but they don't care. Right? It's not to try. I'm not trying to be personal. I'm just trying to tell you what it is. Like they went to this place. There's a specific place that this game is played. You got to have enough. If you got enough, you can go ahead and play. But you got to, and it's on you. How you doing, Sister Sylvia? It's on you. Once you sit down at the table, you got to know how to do this. You don't know how to do this, right? That's not their fault. That's what they're thinking. Now it might be in a sense, but they don't care about that right now. It's time to play the game. So you sit down at the table and you start saying, I need this, I need. So finally they get tired and listen to you. They come up amongst themselves with 25,000. They give you 25,000. They say, fine, go ahead, sit down, play. You here now, play. You know how to play. And then here it is, right? You win right off the bat. You got an ace and you got a king, blackjack. And you talking about hit me. And the dealer's like, sir, you already won. No, hit me. But sir, you've already won, but you don't know the rule. Hit me, right? So you mess around and get a 10. You got a king, a 10, and an ace. You still won. Talking about hit me. Because you don't know how to play the game. You get embarrassed. Everybody laughs at you after off the table. But this is what needs to happen next, right? Here's what needs to happen next. Right? You ready? What needs to happen is you need to then go and learn the game. Save up your own money and do some stuff. Show up again next time. And when you show up again next time, you know how to play the game. You have your own money, so your money's not based off of what you got to do for them. You move your own stuff. And even if you only have 200,000 and they have 1 million, you can still sit down and you can play the game if you see fit how you would like to. Right? You've taken some time, you've gained some experience. One of the things that we have not done, once again, is dealt with what's within ourselves. Somebody who has made the prison colony is the person who controls the game, right? And you're not even thinking that, if I want to sit down at their game. I didn't say the game is wrong. I said the person who controls the game is the one who's made the prison or has the prison colony mentality. See, you got to comprehend your king now is the one who was a prisoner back then and was sent to a land, and they said, fend for yourself, make it happen. And no wonder you guys love to do what? Self-made, right? No wonder you want to be a self-made millionaire. No such thing. Something got to be sacrificed. Somebody's got to give. Somebody's got to help out. But that's how the person whose school you goes to, that's how he was taught. That's how she was taught. The woman who's in charge of the feminist movement, she doesn't support you for sure. But at the same time, guess what? She has the feminist movement because she knows what it is. Fine. She wasn't the slave who just was forced to lay down, but she had to lay down, have babies for her husband, and then watch her babies have to go against y'all babies, even though you were being forced. And she had to watch her husband and sit there and smile saying, one day he'll make me equal. One day he'll pay me. One day he'll do this, right? She comes from a prison mentality. This is why Sojourner Truth had to say, ain't I a woman? Because she was basically saying, ain't I a woman too? Because she was dealing with supposedly these great feminist leaders who loved all women, but told her that she wasn't even supposed to show up and speak that day because her fight was not their fight. How you doing, Sister Austin? See, this period of Thanksgiving is a continuation of the same thing. And how you doing? I don't know the name. User 723-711-486-586. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? Right. I'm just trying to tell you, the Thanksgiving thing is the same continuation. Now, what if I were to tell you that Squanto himself knew English, getting back to Squanto? What if I were to tell you that Squanto himself knew English and Spanish? And what if I were to tell you his real name was Tisquantum? This Squanto, he had a Sambo spirit, or what some of you would call Uncle Tom spirit, because Squanto was part of a trade. He was part of the slave trade. He was a Negro, Native American Negro, sold in the slave trade, right? And when they showed up in the 1600s, his people had already been offed. His wife and child had already lost their lives. He came back and saw that his people were messed up. What had happened was he was sold into slavery in Spain, learned Spanish, then was sold from Spanish family to an English family, sold again, then was put on a rickety boat, right? Was able to get a family to give him his freedom, and was able to travel back over. So when the Puritans showed up, he was somebody who had a Sambo spirit. He was somebody who was the house Negro spirit. I know not all house Negroes had the spirit. I'm just using that because it's something that we recognize, right? He was somebody who had that mind. This is part of what they try to tell you happened at that first time they sat down, and the natives were so excited, and Squanto was just blessed by God to be able to speak English, and if it wasn't for him, they would have made this and that, whatever. No. Squanto was a slave, and he actually had a slave mentality still. How you doing, Minister Bertram? Squanto was a slave, still had a slave mentality, right? And he actually signed up with these people in secret. He was sent by this new native group that had let him in, but said when he came, they even said when Squanto came back, they said his mind isn't all the way there. Something happened to him. They were like, he's not acting the same. Something's wrong. He's not seeing things. He's not in our culture anymore. Something's not right. And as soon as what you call the Puritans, which once again, these are people who were prisoners, right? They tried to escape England during that Protestant move we talked about earlier, because they thought they were better than the Protestants, and the King of England was tired of them and actually asked for them to be executed. They ran away to another place. I don't know if it was Denmark or something like that, but they ran away, and their children started wearing clothes from other cultures and even started speaking the languages of other people, and they got upset. So they came back and they asked for the king to get them over. And so then they came back and they went over into and then the king put them on a rickety boat, right? Put them on a rickety boat, Mayflower, a boat that almost sunk twice before then. He thought they wouldn't make it. He was like, go ahead, throw them to the prison colony. Let them go over there. And so he went over, right? I'm sorry, the natives came over. I'm sorry, the pilgrims came over. So when the pilgrims came over to Squantum, came over to him, was like, look, if y'all really, I know how y'all roll. If you guys trying to make slaves out of these people and stuff, just let me know. And as long as you let me in on some of the slaves and stuff, I'm straight. He recognized them as better than his own people, even though his own tribe, if you will, his branch had been offed. But these people were obviously, who had accepted him in, were closer to him than the people who were coming over. But that's not how he saw it anymore, because he had been enslaved. Right? That's what they're talking about when they're talking about Squanto, at least the part that they don't want to bring up. Now, isn't that an important piece of information to have when you mention Squanto? That Squanto is somebody that we would have looked at and said, that's a Sambo? Grand Rising, I'm not sure if that's possible or not. Khalil, how you doing? Right? Isn't that something that'd be extremely important bit of information, that this guy saw his life taken from him, came back, his family and everything's gone. He had seen what people had done. He had seen what people had done to him in slavery over in Spain and in England, and he comes back and he decides that, like, I'm gonna put massa above my people. I don't know, Johnny. Be more specific. First of all, start off with a hello, but be more specific. Because if your whole thing is because I'm talking about a truth today, it means that I'm not able to like live with any kind of happiness or something like that. I don't know if that's a great way to put stuff or whatever, right? Because I don't know. You must be somebody who can't deal with stuff where you can't say hello. But you see what I'm saying? We have to have a mindset change. We have to have an honest conversation, right? It's very interesting that people want to be dishonest and say, if you can't live in dishonesty, then you can't live. You see that? How you doing, Charlotte? Grand Rising T. How you doing, Brother Ali? Right? And it's a Danny girl. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. How you doing, Brother TJ? So my intent, once again, is not to sit up here. I don't do the whole colorism, all white people is blah, blah, all black people, blah, blah, all Israelites, blah, blah, all et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have time for that because it's not true. Right? Once again, somebody's saying forget, but how do you forget when something's right in front of you? Now, somebody will say, well, I don't see it. That's not how I was raised. Or even look, and may Yah, or well, you know what, rest. I hope you rest well, Ralphie May, right? But when Ralphie May says, man, when I was growing up and you growing up and we both ain't got no money, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we have nothing. We use in the same bowl, that's got Fruit Loop stains in it to go ahead and have meat in it and stuff like that or whatever. So what's your color? I don't know, poor. That sounds nice and everything until you realize that Ralphie May can, in the same area, do a lot of things that somebody else can't while he's talking about poor, right? And it works in different ways, right? But we can't act like, see, this is what Thanksgiving, once again, is a distraction. Thanksgiving, that the Negro, which once again meant natives that were of America and natives from other places that were colored, and colonizers should come together as one and say that, hey, this Civil War was just fought to make sure that no such thing as slavery exists, which we know by the way the 13th Amendment literally says the opposite of. The 13th Amendment literally tells us the opposite of. Yeah, that's what they say. But it can't be, that's not real. Right? You're so upset and so frustrated. And how you doing, Dallas? Thanks for being part of the community. See, Johnny got on here. How can you live, man? How can you operate? And how are you able to? How can you walk around because all you do is hate? No, I have no look. First of all, can I say something? This is gonna really mess with somebody's mind. That's okay. That's all right. Hopefully you get the context of it. You ready? The Bible never told me that I'm not supposed to hate. See, that's a Christian thing. But the word hate doesn't even mean that I'm supposed to beat you up, though, does it? Oh, that just messed with somebody's mind. Can I say it again? Let's rewind. The Bible never says anywhere that you are not supposed to hate. Right? But I don't hate people. I hate sin. Right? If my people mess around and enslave somebody, I hate that sin. Right? If my people are abusive to my sister, then I hate the sin. Right? And if somebody keeps coming around my people, who is my people, and continues to sin around us and is messing with our minds, then I will continue to hate the sin that you bring. This is why I've mentioned, hey, love Pop, but you can't be up here calling women B's and H's. At some point, we got to admit that was wrong. I hate that sin. Right? Snoop is out here. Y'all got mad love for him, but Snoop is still doing some of the same stuff that's problematic to the diaspora. I gotta hate that sin, right? Rick Ross is out here talking about I'm giving out turkey, so y'all forgive me for all the. So y'all, matter of fact, don't even forgive me. He don't even want your forgiveness. He says act like you don't see all the other stuff that's problematic that I'm doing to cause strife and stuff in people's lives, right? I have to hate that sin. And this is the problem with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a lie. If it wasn't done but to be a creative distraction by Abraham Lincoln, who he himself didn't even like himself, let alone like you, right? And did this to be able to say, hey, I'm going to make up something to tell you that we've always been together. Or if we haven't always been together, from now on, we'll be together, by making sure that there's still classism, then we should hate that sin. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. I should hate the sin. And people don't want to bring this up, but it's sin is anything that causes you to miss the mark. That's what sin is. Sin is just simply anything that causes you to miss the mark. You're aiming at the target and you loose and you miss. It doesn't even have to be on purpose. It just means that you missed. And if you missed, then you should hate it. What does that mean? That means that you should take time out. Why did I was it my arm motion? Was it when I pulled back? Was my pull back too far? Was I breathing in and out? Did I breathe out on the release? Something. I need to get rid of or hate something, get it out so that I can hit the target, not just once, but hit it every time. Because when I hit it every time, that's when it's obedience. See, some of you hit the target once and that's sacrifice, but obedience is better than sacrifice. Wouldn't you like to hit the target every time? Yeah, your walk with the Creator is definitely personal, right? But it's also something that affects your community, because there's not one person, right? There's not an individual without a society, and there's not a society without a group of individuals. And as individuals, you can't even tell what an individual is unless I have a society to compare you to, right? Yah says you are my people. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, fast, turn from their wicked ways, then I would what? Hear from heaven and then heal their land. I'm looking for you to be a people, right? And you must recognize the persons who made Thanksgiving didn't even think of you as a person or persons, let alone a people, because the word people means nation. The plural of person is persons, right? They didn't consider you to be a people. When it says we the people of the United States, that's not you. We got to stop this nonsense. We the people of the United States. Who is that? Who is that? We the people of the United States. You hear what I'm saying? We the people of the United States. Who is that? That's not you. Matter of fact, any woman, I don't care what your color is, any woman listening to me right now, any platform, listening live or listening later on, I just need to remind you, they didn't consider you to be a person either. You had no rights. The first vote, well, not the first vote, but the first vote that goes with the new Constitution, whether you're dealing with 1789, 1787, 1791, whichever one you want to pick from, right? Voted in, ain't no woman vote. If you were rich, you didn't get the vote. You think your vote mattered? You still sitting up there talking about women's suffrage. And then when it was women's suffrage, they didn't want to fight for you to vote either. Any woman on here listening, I don't care what your color is, you were not considered. When they say we the people of the United States, that's not you. You got to stop that. Anybody that's trying to tell you the opposite, they're a liar. See, this whole Thanksgiving thing is a continuation of a lie. And it's something to get you in between Hallows Eve, which is what? Hallows Eve, to then the next day is Hallows Day, to the next day, the Dia del Muerte, right? To get you from that to now get you to start getting yourself ready now. See, now this thing is commercialized. Now this thing has become doctrine. Doctrine of Thanksgiving. It's been lifted up. Remember what a doctrine is. A doctrine is just what? A doctrine is just anything that a group of people hold up. See, there's a doctrine of Thanksgiving. It's a distraction to get you to be like, everybody's on the same page. Pay no attention to the Santa Claus thing that's about to come around. That train's never late. See, this is right. What's about to happen tomorrow? Either virtually or physically, y'all going to be standing in line on Black Friday, which, by the way, Black Friday has its roots in some other stuff that I know a lot of people want to talk about, and I'm not sure if I'm called to talk about it today. So I'm only here to do what I'm sent to do, right? But Black Friday has a whole bunch of stuff that you can go ahead and start talking about. But I'm saying this is the thing, is to get you to do this whole distraction thing. You're going to overeat, right? You're going to be sick. You're going to be living off leftovers and all this stuff, and some of the stuff that makes you sick, and doing all this stuff. You're going to see your family for the first time, and some of you the only time. And that's why, once again, I'm going to try my best. I can't promise I'll be able to do, but I'm going to try my best. I'm going to just literally be scrolling through. And so everybody will probably get, even if it's 5 minutes, I'm going to try to give a phone call to everybody. Usually people have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or some kind of something in there off, or at least less time on, or something like that. I'm going to try to reach out to everybody just to check on you. Hopefully you guys will do the same thing with each other. Because they've set this time up to be one of the loneliest times. Have you ever thought about the fact that in the world, their holy days are some of the loneliest times ever? See, now let's start getting to some of the spiritual stuff. I think we've laid out some historical stuff, some evidence. We've given you some things, and now let's just have some honest conversation. This is going to be some of the loneliest times. This thing that supposedly brings everybody together. And I'm not just talking about people who never see family. I'm talking about they're going to be people who are going to go visit their families, and then they're going to go right back to their situation, and all types of wild stuff's about to happen. Right? They're going to hug up on people and everything, and then something's going to happen. There's a spirit. Right? Christmas time about to happen. There's a spirit. How you doing, Charles? And thank you for the love. Sorry, I appreciate you guys. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be people who are going to come over. They're going to be Thanksgiving services today. And people aren't going to make it. We need seriously. Because these holy days are obviously not, they're over-promising and under-delivering. How many people, I want you to think about this. The whole distraction thing. We talked about the gymnasium spirit last week or the week before, and we talked about gymnasium spirit actually a little bit for those who were part of early Rise of Bible study session this last Monday. You guys remember what a gymnasium was for, correct? Anybody remember what a gymnasium was for? Times of when we're talking about the fifth assembly in Revelation chapter 3, verses 1-6. Anybody remember the gymnasium spirit? See, we got to start getting to a spiritual thing now. It's a psychological thing now. You remember what the gymnasium was for? Not what you use the gym for, even though some of you still using it for the same thing spiritually. Parading bodies before a fight, basically, yeah. Only men were allowed to go. They were supposed to go be naked. They were supposed to have their dais, Hercules, Heracles, and Hermes, right? So how fast you are, how strong you are. And these were slaves, and these slaves were going to the gymnasium to be ready, and then basically get ready to be a distraction at the, as a gladiator in the Colosseum. Sure enough, you're in that same spirit right now. What's today about to be about? Some of you about to watch more NFL football than you've ever watched this whole year, than you will ever watch until next year. Some of you might watch more football than you've ever watched in your entire life today. Yeah. See, there's a spirit. This thing now has become commercialized as a doctrine, and it's part of the ultimate doctrine, which is satanic doctrine, right? Balaam doctrine included. What is Balaam doctrine? Balaam doctrine is that which is a stumbling block to Israel and is put in place by Israelites. Well, here you go. How many Israelites going to make sure that they preach to you as to why this is a day that you need to give to God? How many prayers will be said? How many online sermons will be given today? How many people will go, if they didn't go to church last Sunday for this, they're going to go to church this Sunday for a Thanksgiving service? How many people are going to say, we're going to pass out turkeys? By the way, anything in your Bible, look, I know there's stuff about passing out food, but I'm just trying to ask you, right? If we're talking about holy days, anything in your Bible about passing out turkeys? And the same people that have passed out turkeys, they won't pass out lamb. They're not going to talk about Nisan Yao Dalit or Nisan 14. They told you the Feast of Tabernacles was nothing, even though it's in your Bible. They told you not to worry about the Feast of Trumpets, even though it's in your Bible. They told you not to worry about the Day of Atonement, right? Which is actually the birthday date of Christ, if not the actual birth date, very close to it. You can't argue about it once you know the scripture, right? But you don't do anything about Day of Atonement. But they're getting you ready for Christmas right down the road, starting tomorrow. Let's all our money together. Go broke to make sure that your grandbabies think that you love them. Go broke to make sure that your babies think that you love them. And still feel lonely after, because who cares how much money you have if you don't even have a community that sows back into you? And I'm not trying to come at any individual here. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. We eat lamb on Passover, Pasach, right? Or if you do in modern Hebrew, they call it Pesach, right? Yeah, it's very perverted thinking. Amen, Brother TJ. Amen, Money Green. Very perverted teaching. Very cynical. And we make excuses. Well, I know nobody, in the family celebrates with you. I'm just only going over there because I want to make sure that I'm seen. So you can't be seen any other time during the year. Now, I'm just talking about spiritually. There's some stuff. See, this is a gymnasium thing. Get yourself ready. Go in the gym, so to speak. Present yourself so everybody says, oh, they work out like us. They eat like us. They do what we do, right? And eat things sacrificed unto idols. Isn't that what we just talked about with the 7 assemblies? In the same Babylonian Benefactor series. Stop being like the Nicolaitans and doing their deeds. That was part of Ephesus, who lost their first love, who had that Artemis spirit and started lusting after different things and started having their people who were literally starting to become eunuchs and were literally starting to become prostitutes because they thought that it was better to be part of a deist or a goddess who was about that than to make sure that they stayed obedient to the Most High. Be careful who you're laying down with, right? And who you're doing things with or whatever that is sacrificed to idols. Here comes that Jezebel spirit. Remember, the Jezebel spirit, it is not outside of the assembly. The Jezebel spirit was at the throne. See, we make the mistake of thinking that the Jezebel spirit is somewhere outside of Israel. The Jezebel spirit is at the throne. The Jezebel spirit is at the throne. It's your own preacher with the Jezebel spirit who's talking about Thanksgiving. It's mama and them talking about happy Thanksgiving. It's daddy and them talking about you gonna come over and get you a plate. It's difficult when you have to be the one to break the curse, and nobody in your family even wants to consider that they cursed. Sitting up there eating food, literally food that's cursed. You can't tell me no different. Tell me that your food's not cursed when you sitting up there and you passing away, and everybody's passing away with the same ailment. Mess around with me if you want. Come on. You can pretend like I'm wrong if you want. I know I ain't lying. You know I ain't lying. For real, for real. Let's stop the nonsense. Let's stop playing games with it. Right. Come on, somebody. Let's stop playing games with it. Let's be honest. Let's have some honest conversation. We brothers and sisters today. We breaking bread right now. We love one another, right? Right. This is the most breaking bread I'm gonna do. I'm trying. It's Thanksgiving, so it's supposed to be a time of fasting anyways. So I'm worried about getting that spiritual nutrients today. You ready? Like let's just have an honest conversation. You about to go out there and have cursed food today. Where's your cranberry come from? I'm just trying to help somebody. If look, if the shoe fits weird, if it doesn't, take it off. But I'm just trying. There's somebody who's listening. Statistics show, right? I ain't crazy out here. Statistics show there's somebody in here. As much as you love the Most High, somebody's still gonna be like, yeah, but I just don't want to be alone, right? Yeah, it's like soul food. Matter of fact, remember the Boondocks talked about soul food and how crazy that was. That you had that whole thing that was that was happening or whatever, and Big Mama basically invites everybody over. Big Mama ends up passing away, getting her limb, whichever limb it was, amputated, and then all of a sudden Big Mama ends up passing away. And then what do they do to celebrate, to make sure they come back together? They all come back together and eat the same food that just took Big Mama's life. This whole thing is a curse. Do we not see the spiritual foolishness? Amen. I see you, sis. I see thoughts with SJ, I believe. You said you're gonna play soul food when everybody start eating. That's funny, right? You said you always felt uneasy about it. Yeah, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, right? This is cognitive dissonance. How you doing, Ebony? This is cognitive dissonance at its finest, double-mindedness at its finest, elitism at its finest, elitism at its finest, right? Like, think about this. This is classism at its finest. If you don't eat what we eat, you're not in our class. Or try to make you feel bad, but you think you're too righteous for this food. Yeah, the food is cursed because I'm saying, okay, watch this. The food is cursed. Okay, where's okay, watch this. How many calories you gonna eat today? Watch this. Um, how much pork is gonna be consumed by people today? Right? What I mean, it's you see what I'm saying? How many people are going to eat things? And by the way, some people eat this stuff all the time. Probably. I'm just saying, how many people are going to eat things that we know cause diabetes and are going to eat so much of it and then try to take to go home plates? What's in the bread, especially King's Hawaiian bread? And I ain't gonna hold you. King's Hawaiian bread, especially when I found out, because for real, I used to just be one of them cats. You get the King's Hawaiian bread and then you just eat it, and then found out one day, oh no, put it in the oven first. Like you was always supposed to do that. I never grew up doing that. You just grab the bread, you ate it, but then you put it in the oven first. Oh yeah, that King Hawaiian be hitting. That the King Hawaiian slap. I ain't gonna hold you. Like it slap, but what's in it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it slap, but what's in it? Don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't care. What's in your cranberry? First of all, the cranberry sauce, because y'all ain't making cranberry sauce, no more on your own. But the cranberry sauce, if you buy it in your can, question for you. Have you ever looked inside the can when you open it? Have you ever realized how much plastic is on the inside of just soaking it up and stuff like that? And now you're dealing with high estrogen levels and things because of that cranberry sauce. And you can't wait till you're gonna keep some of that cranberry sauce. Just make sure you put a sliver when you putting your little bread together and stuff like that. When you putting all that, when you putting your leftover sandwiches and you putting that turkey and on mac and cheese and then putting some cranberry stuff in there like y'all be doing. Y'all be putting together some interesting stuff. I'm not even saying it don't taste great. I'm just saying everybody got their own little recipes and stuff. Everybody's gonna cook all the nutrients out of them greens, right? And then you're gonna leave the green juice in the bottom, right? Somebody gonna have enough sense to sop it up, but y'all gonna leave all the green juice in the bottom of the pot, and really, there's not as much stuff in there as there should be, anyways, because you're cooking out the enzymes so you can digest the food in the first place. So here you are having this cursed behavior that's going generation to generation. Then we keep saying, "Oh no, all this stuff is hereditary." No, you eat in a hereditary fashion. You what? No wonder. I just got somebody just told me. Remember, I was telling that I was trying to find, and she used to make clothing for me and stuff back in the day. Some of the clothing that y'all say y'all like that I wear from time to time. Just found out she passed. They were asking me if I can play her funeral. I don't know. I'm praying about it. I got to bring it up before my family and stuff, anyways, because I'm not even sure exactly where it is. But I was sitting up there, and the person who was her pastor became our overseer that we were under at the time. That person who was our overseer, she talking about no woman in her family had made it past like 50, 52 or something. Might have even been 62, something like that. And she was saying, I don't know if I'm meant, because she had all these health conditions and things like that. And I used to look at what they were eating. And she finally started telling people we're gonna eat healthier and stuff. They still weren't really eating healthy, but it was healthier. But I was just sitting there. I was like, well, yeah, no wonder there's such and such that happens in your family, because if this is how you guys eat, I never said it out loud, right? Right. Maybe I should have. I did say it a couple times in a few different ways to be nice, but in my mind, I'm like, well, and I was just finally starting to get myself in order. I'm not gonna act like I was a beacon of hope back then for those who try to eat healthy. But I'm just saying, like, I started to realize, oh yeah, I can see why such and such happens. I can see why you have problems with this. I can see why, you're having issues with this and that or whatever. I can see why her husband ends up passing away. I think they passed away within like weeks of each other. dealing with very similar issues and things like that, right? There's some things that happen when we're not going to eat correctly. How you doing, Charles? Thanks for being part of the community. And how you doing, Curious Eyes? You have to realize that there's some spirituality that we keep on acting like. That isn't attached to this. It manifests. See, if I'll eat this stuff that I know harms my body, but I'll keep praying over it like nothing's happened, then what is it that I'm eating spiritually that I know is harming my soul, but I'll keep praying over it and trying to act like nothing's happening? Oh, come on, talk back to me. Talk back to me. I'm sent on assignment to give you something specific today. I need you to recognize what I'm saying. There's a power in this, right? I'm trying to help somebody. If I will eat, this is a spiritual manifestation, right? As these things are physical manifestation, excuse me, of things that have already spiritually manifested. If I will eat things that I know are terrible for me, but it's the only way that I can be allowed to sit at the table with my family, then I must start thinking about what are the things spiritually that I'm already partaking in that I know will mess up my family. And I'm trying to call it Thanksgiving, which would be a time of me fasting and giving up certain things to be in the presence of the Most High. But I'm gluttonous and I'm eating as much of it as I can, even if it's often my people. How many lies will I eat and pray over? Right? How many times will I see our leadership be jacked up and pray over it like it's nothing? Right? How many times will I sit up there and know that I'm called to do this, but I will not do it because they'll take my seat away from the table? And if they take my seat away from the table, then how can I really be loved? Look at all the strife on the day, and before arguing who's bringing what? Oh yeah, Nash, I'm not bringing all that. Cheese cost a lot. Is so and so coming? Yeah, well, I'm not coming. Then a big argument, everybody mad. Yeah, right. And it becomes madness, mania. Right? We're supposed to try and escape. Drapetomania is what they call that. You're not supposed to. Something's a mental health issue, but is it not a mental health issue to where I've been free from strife, but yet I'm supposed to spend time with family today so I can be in strife? Can we just can we keep it a buck? I'm not saying this for all of your families, but let's be honest. A lot of y'all don't even want to be around your family for Thanksgiving. It is a requirement that you just go on ahead and do it. I know you don't want to hear it. You try to build yourself up though. Well, it's been a while. It'll be nice to see. It would be nice to see everybody. And you try to ignore it in your mind. You like, oh man, JoJo gonna start acting like this, and LaQuisha gonna do blah blah, and Sam gonna be doing this and that or whatever, and Jenny she gonna do. Sorry, I was trying to find names that aren't. Excuse me. you know, you know, uh, Amandita she gonna do blah blah and this and that whatever, and you just be sitting there and you're like, I don't even want to be around these people. I don't even really, you got a part of you to say, I don't even want to go. But you're like, yeah, but we're supposed to show up because it's Thanksgiving. For what? We're celebrating death anyway. It's right. I mean, we don't even like this. And then can't wait to tell people why the Most High is happy about us coming together, eating pork, eating foolishness, having candies and stuff, celebrating teams that don't even give him honor today. It was just recently they finally stopped calling themselves the Redskins. Right? And y'all used to call them this playfully when they were bad anyways. If you were a Cowboys fan, you might call them the Deadskins, but you don't even know Redskin and Deadskin, they go together. Because in order for you to have a Redskin, you had to skin somebody after you took their life. Why would you even entertain that? And then call it Thanksgiving and pray over that while you watch it? Why would you pray over that? Right? Why would you eat a heaping bowl of sugar? Because that's what some of y'all gonna have dishes that's gonna be straight sugar today. And you had a heaping bowl of sugar and you say, y'all bless this. I know this is diabetes, but bless it. That's like me. Look, I told y'all the truth. I can't have a what you call it? I can't have like a McDonald's tea because I will lose my sight for a hot second. I'm not even gonna hold you. Seriously. If I have McDonald's tea, I can't see for like 10, 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Right? Y'all's not blessing that. I know some of y'all might be able to handle. I can't handle it no more. Right? My body says no. Period. right? I had my days of, I never really liked like sweet tea, like straight up, like people would just be drowning stuff in sugar stuff anyways. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the honor of Maya. As always, please check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you, babe, for being on. Love you very much. Yeah, people do that every day and ask y'all to bless their man. Yep, you know, and that's not what Yah wants us to do. Thank y'all. We don't have to have strife here. Allowed to educate the family about the atrocities committed on this day. Right. And by the way, thank you, babe. Appreciate you. Excuse me. And by the way, if I tell my family the truth about who we are, anyways, then Thanksgiving would be the last thing that they would want to do. I don't know if you pronounce it PA or Piet. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but thanks for being part of the community. Right. Train up a child in the way that they should go, so when they grow old, they will not depart from it. Right. You got to ask yourself, what kind of training have we put into our children to where they know that Christmas has nothing to do with like literally, I'm not talking about everybody, some people that are ignorant, but most people nowadays, they can tell you Christmas ain't got nothing to do with the birth of Christ, but they still gonna celebrate it. They know antlers don't have nothing to do with the birth of Christ, but they still gonna have them on during your service. They know Christmas trees are outlawed by the Bible in Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1-5, but they still gonna have them December, whatever, through the new year. Stop denouncing what? Is that your way of saying hello? I'm not sure if I missed what you were saying earlier. Hey, you said that's wild to me. I eat a lot in general, but on Thanksgiving I don't have much appetite. Well, Thanksgiving, once again, the original definition of it from the Eurocentric lens means to actually fast. I'm sorry. Read 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. Once again, on your way to heaven. Is that a way of saying hello? Can we start there? What is it that you'd like me to read? What is the purpose of the point? I'm sorry. You got to help me out here. I got a lot of different platforms going on at the same time, and I'm trying to be in a specific direction. I don't mind reading it, I guess. But yeah, what is it? 1 Corinthians 11:14. Doth not nature. Oh, yeah. Long hair. Make sure that you read 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse, let's see. Let me go ahead and keep on reading. But if any man seem to be contentious, have no such. There it is, verse 16. Read 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 16. Right, where he says, if we have no such custom. He's talking about a Corinthian custom. Corinthians, men weren't supposed to have long hair. He's talking about the women in Corinthian culture. And then in verse 23, he says, but this custom I did leave with you. This is an Israelite custom. And he tells them about Passover, right? So you got to have your stuff in order, right? So if you're going to check me on something, make sure you get it correct. Right? But we're talking about Thanksgiving. Okay? Thanksgiving. Okay? On your way to heaven. You got it? Read your Bible. It'll bless you. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14 talks about man not having long hair. Verse 15 talking about women again. Verse 16, it says specifically, though, that is not our custom. So that's not Paul's culture. That's not his custom. He said, I did give you a custom that's Israelite, though, and it's called it different. I said, I added to the scripture. Show me where I added. I just read it. What does verse 16 say? See, you don't want to read the scripture. Also, too, if that's the custom, then tell me why Nazarites had long hair. The Bible says that. Tell me why Samson had long hair and it was allowed. Why would Yah say that nobody's ever allowed to have long hair? And those are just two of many. We can keep on going through. But obviously, you have a problem with scripture. Now you seem to be taken away. Be careful, right? Because Revelation says that if you add on, the plagues are added on to you, right? But if you take away, your name be taken out the book of life. But once again, show me that I'm wrong. You just said I added the scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 16. I just read it for you. You see what I'm saying? We have a spirit here where, if anything, you should be fasting from things of the world, Thanksgiving. But instead, what are you doing? Gluttonous. You're trying to eat things sacrificed to idols. Paul says specifically he's using something to help them with how they see things in the assembly of Corinth. But he says that is not our custom. What did I add? Okay. The moderators are in charge, so they might not let us do this. Moderators, I promise I won't take any more than a couple minutes. I'm just asking the question. Okay, on my way to heaven, tell me what I added. If y'all don't mind, moderators are in charge. So if they get rid of you, they get rid of you. It's not my fault, right? But you want to go ahead and get what you paid for, go ahead, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11. All right, you ready? There's a spirit. Show me what I said, okay? 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 13. Judge in yourselves, is it not comely or pretty, right? In this case, is it comely or attractive that a woman pray unto Elohim uncovered? Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given for a covering. But if any man seem contentious, we have no such custom, neither the assemblies of Elohim. Or I'll read it the way you would read it in English. Verse 16, but if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. All right, now tell me what I added. Verse 23, then he says what? That's what I said where he starts talking about the custom. For I have received of the Lord that which I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. Okay, show me where I lied. Show me what I added. I even wrote it. I even wore it the way you said. You said God said, first of all, don't worship God, because God is a Germanic spirit that you can make whatever you want it to be. I worship Elohim, or who you call Elohim. Show me where Elohim says my hair must be cut. Matter of fact, we can show scripture to where razors don't necessarily need to touch my head. We can show scriptures that talk about locks. Okay. All right. Thank you, moderators. There's nothing that I said that's not righteous. All right. You see what I'm saying? But once again, it's a thing of thanksgiving. It shows you a spirit that's there, right? A spirit that says that if you don't eat what I'm telling you, this is what I eat that's sacrificed to idols. It's not my culture. It belongs to somebody else, and you better respect it. But for what? I mean, the razor not touching your own head, I mean, that's definitely one for Samson right off the bat. You can go ahead and Google that one. That one's for free. Just go Google that. Like, right? Look up scriptures, people with long hair in the Bible. You can Google that. That won't take you so long, right? Samson, number one, boom, right there. If he cuts his hair, he loses his strength, right? You can also talk about the Nazarite vow, in which you're not supposed to cut your hair, not supposed to have alcohol, et cetera, right? So there's plenty of places that we could talk about. But once again, Paul specifically here, Paul specifically here, is talking to the assembly of Corinth, where they had people who were dealing with other things. We've talked about this already when we just talked about the seven assemblies. So if you're on a YouTube channel, if you ever want to go there, you can look and you can go back to the seven assemblies that we talked about just recently in the last couple of weeks. And you'll see there's customs and traditions that go with each one. And so he's telling them, hey, look how you guys look at nature, and doesn't it teach you this and blah blah, and a woman's hair, this and that, or whatever. But then he says specifically, this is not our custom. That's not what we do. And this is one of the things that makes people upset, is that I'm talking about Thanksgiving and you think Thanksgiving is your culture. Now, if it's a culture you uphold, then so be it, but it's not my culture. Why would I keep upholding these things, including things that, if I'm going to be really, once again, Thanksgiving actually means to fast. Why would you be gluttonous on the day you're supposed to fast? The same person that has the spirit to be gluttonous on the day you're supposed to be fasting is the same type of person who will go ahead and say that this is what Massa says, and therefore I'll live up to what Massa says. Right? I want to live up to what Massa says rather than live up what the Most High says. How you doing, Yassima? You see what I'm saying? We have a Thanksgiving spirit that we're dealing with. Right? We already talked about the seven feasts a little bit already. Or really, well, they're not all seven feasts, but the seven holy days, if you will. Right? Yeah, exactly. What's wrong is supposed to be right, and what's righteous is supposed to be wrong. That's what they believe in the world, right? I don't want to be right. I want to be righteous. I don't want to be right. I want to be righteous. And when we talk about Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving isn't even something that, watch this, even you guys who are in the United States of America, y'all didn't even believe in Thanksgiving until somebody made it as a distraction. How you doing, Ricardo? Thanks for being part of the community. You hear what I'm saying? You guys who are, you consider yourself to be these modern Americans because you don't want to deal with the original Americans, fine. You didn't even believe in Thanksgiving. You didn't celebrate Thanksgiving, right? You didn't believe you were supposed to set aside a day to be able to talk about you coming together with Negroes or natives and the way that you did, even though you had never done it before. Not one time ever. And definitely in the kingdom, not one time in the history of kingdom have we ever sat down and said we're going to have a day of Thanksgiving, as far as we're going to have a day of Thanksgiving to celebrate somebody oppressing you. How you doing, Nikki? Right? Nobody wants to be honest. Once again, have honest dialogue, have honest conversation. We're busy on this whole dishonesty kick. Nobody wants to have honest conversation. Nobody wants to have real, actual dialogue concerning what's going on. It's easier or it's best for us to go ahead and go against one another, right? Or matter of fact, the person who's on, I don't know if they were one of us or not. And I'm not just talking about skin color. I'm talking about being part of the kingdom. Doesn't seem like it, right? Because even in that, the whole goal was what? To try and say you got long hair, so everything that you're saying is wrong. That doesn't even make sense. Watch this. You ready for this? Where does your Bible say anything about a shape up? That should be enough for you right there. How you doing, Brother Kayla? That should be enough right there. Where is your Bible talk about a shape up? While you talking? Where does your Bible say be bald headed? While you talking? Now, I'm not saying these are sins. I'm just trying to tell you, people who are trying to make this into a religion, show me where this is. And they want this to be your religion. Okay. Show me how this is protecting you. And when the Bible says that a woman should have long hair, I mean, tell me, does the Bible say that she should never cut her hair? Does it say it could never be styled? Does it say it can never be dyed? Now, I think you should be careful with dyeing your stuff because it's not really healthy. A lot of ways y'all do it, but still, you see what I'm saying? You won't see any of the stuff mentioned. You won't see any of this Thanksgiving stuff mentioned, other than when you enter into His gates, better let go of some things. Enter in with Thanksgiving. Well, that's what we're talking about right now. That it is a struggle. And for those of you who have your information, I will try to reach out to you today or tomorrow or Saturday as best as I can, even if it's only for 5 minutes or so, just to say hello and let you know that you're loved during this time, because I know that this is a difficult season for many of us to try and, and deal with, especially because many people feel like they're on their own. Right. You enter into His gates with thanksgiving, and then when you get closer into His courts, guess what? With praise. Yeah. Yeah. And the house can be divided. Excuse me, especially with your spouses. You have to be careful to make sure that you still honor your spouse while not having to dishonor, the Most High, and that can be a not so easy thing. How you doing, Tahiti? So these are things that are there, and by the way, even with the locks thing, if I could just throw this out here real quick too, like, okay, I don't care, like, if you got parts in your locks, if you're doing free growth, if you're going to do, if you feel like you want to cut your locks, by the way, right? I've made a specific promise, right? We forget that there's more than just one group of Israelites. This is another thing that kind of is bothersome too, is that one group therefore means everybody has to. Now, there's certain things that everybody in Israel should do, but especially when you're dealing with looks or different things like that, we forget so quickly that there's different groups of of Israelites. So there's groups of Israelites that had long hair and never cut it. There are groups of Israelites that had hair and cut it. There's groups of Israelites that just let their hair grow. However, there's groups of Israelites that made sure they had beards. There were a lot of different types of cultural things that Israelites did. You know what I'm saying? So to do this weird thing of like, oh well, you know, long hair is a curse or blah blah. And even when somebody says long hair is a curse, does it mean that long hair is a curse as far as if it's going down your back? Is it long hair if it's going past my ears? See, they don't even want to get into that because you know that you're dealing with the Greek thought process with long hair there in 1 Corinthians 2, which means you're talking about what's long hair for a Greek, right? For a Greek man, what did they consider to be long hair? And you have to even think about it was Greeks. Once again, he said that's not our custom. So the Greeks, right, or even colonial constructs, social construct, white people, right? You have to even realize there's certain terms that don't even make sense. For example, have you ever heard the term of highbrow, right? Have you ever heard of somebody being highbrow? Now, in your mind, you probably think that means smart. You ever heard that? He is highbrow, she's highbrow, this is highbrow part of society, whatever the case might be, right? Well, highbrow, if you've ever heard of that, is highbrow and there's lowbrow. You know why they did that? Because there were people that were indigenous to other places that didn't have some of the same health challenges with their hair that others had, right? And I'm not saying there's never been anybody outside of white people who are balding, but it wasn't as big a deal or as big an issue for many of us, right? Like, so we didn't have so we had lowbrow, but a lot of them, they were missing their hair. So the older they got, it was guaranteed almost that they were missing their hair. And so when they got older, they would say, oh, that's, you're wiser, so that means you're highbrow. And especially a lot of them when they were younger would start losing their hair in their 20s and stuff. Their teens in their 20s, they start losing their hair. So they have a highbrow. So they tried to say that was their way of saying they were smarter than you. You'll even see this on a lot of statues and stuff. If you ever see some statues and you'll see like on one side, especially like Manhattan type statues and stuff, where you'll see like on one side, or even New York, this is a big part of your stuff in New York, where you'll see a statue and it's even on your stuff written on like how you guys are supposed to execute in law, property law, stuff like that. You'll see on one side will be the white person, on the other side is a native person, and the white person usually is balding, right? That's the way of saying he's highbrow. And on the other side is the native. Their stuff is lower, it's lowbrow. Right. If you ever want to see, even in history, if you ever look at some pictures of stuff from some particular periods of paintings, you'll see even people that have hair, they still will have in the painting, they'll give them a big forehead, even if they didn't have a big forehead, because that means that you're smarter, you're highbrow. The reality, though, is no, you're unhealthy. Or there's some kind of deficiency there because you're supposed to have hair fill down till it's lower, right? I'm not saying you can't have a big forehead or nothing. I got a five head. I ain't joning. I'm not making fun. I'm not playing the dozens. I'm just saying, right? Like sometimes you're gonna have a different no, but they yeah, they were just balding. So when you hear somebody say highbrow, that was because they were unhealthy. They didn't have their hair, so they said that highbrow meant you were smarter, and if you were lowbrow, that meant that you were stupid. You were slow. Now we know that's not true, but that's what it was. Hey, doing? How you doing? Yesterday, Ronald, how you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. So when you're sitting up there having these conversations, you have to be honest about it. Thanksgiving is one of those highbrow conversations, as it is. You got to be honest. Thanksgiving is a highbrow conversation. If you don't think about Thanksgiving correctly, then you're not in the right society. It's classism. It's for the elite mentality. It's for those to control others. Food on a regular basis, giving thing, right? I've learned that the whole Thanksgiving thing, if I be honest with you, I've learned the whole Thanksgiving thing is, how can I say this? When people give out food on Thanksgiving, if we put the same effort into giving out food to Thanksgiving as we did to giving people regular food, right? I promise you, you could feed like the same family what you give them for Thanksgiving. You can usually feed them for a week if you did it right, just for the cost of the turkey by itself. right? We used to give out turkeys and stuff for Thanksgiving years ago. So I remember what the prices were, right? If you knew where to shop, it wasn't too bad, right? But if you went out just by the cost of the turkey by itself, like we could probably feed your family for a week. If you really know what you're doing, especially if it's just like, hey, we want to just make sure you guys are getting by. Oh yeah, like I can get you sandwich stuff. Uh, I can get you chicken. I can get you a lot of vegetables and at least some apples, maybe some oranges, and y'all be straight for about a week. Yeah, you operated the food bank, so okay, so you know even more. So if I'm lying, tell them if I'm lying, Warren, right? Or if I'm just wrong, I need to learn something. But I'm telling you, right? I never haven't had an official food bank, but I know what it is to feed folk, and a lot of times out of pocket at that time was straight up out of my wife and I coming together. We were just giving out the best that we can. Sometimes when we give out clothes, people will give food and stuff. I'm telling you, like it's a lot. It's a lot easier to feed people than what you think it is. And people will only do it. And here's the cognitive dissonance. I'm glad y'all are doing it on Thanksgiving, but it's like, here's the time of Thanksgiving. People are getting close to Christmas. Here's the time that maybe we'll give a little extra. Like, instead of the Christmas presents, what if you sold into your family? Right? I haven't been as keen because I just haven't had that much money. But I haven't been as keen. I've still been investing in stuff like that, but in doing cryptocurrency stuff a little bit as well. And a reminder to those, keep on keeping on with the crypto, right? Matter of fact, those of you who got Tron, it took forever and a day, but Tron is up to like 10 cent. No, $10 or 10 cent. $10 a Tron or whatever. And if you remember when we started back, when we were talking about Tron was like less than a penny, right? So I'm just saying, you know, hang in there with your stuff. Keep studying. Don't give up. Don't give up. Oh, it's 10 cent. Okay, 10 cent, 10 cent. Yeah. So imagine if it gets to $10 and you came in there when it was less than a penny, right? If you had invested a lot, let's say you had $500 worth of Tron when it was only a penny per Tron or less than a penny per Tron, and that thing went up to $10, you doing pretty well for yourself, right? But nevertheless, right? Like there's some stuff, like even in that, where it's like you could be investing in stuff that's a penny, a coin, and yeah, what if it doesn't grow? You're right, but what if it does? Right? You got something that's a penny a coin. Shoot, you put $100 in it one time. A lot of y'all done $100, wasted the club, and don't even know what you spent it on. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all spent $100 on beer in a week, right? Invested in something that, hey, is more worth the upside, right? Right. But I'm just trying to say, yeah, the price of coin doesn't, yeah, it never matters. It's always that growth, right? Right. But I'm just saying, there's a lot more stuff we could be doing with this Thanksgiving stuff that they're only trying to get you to focus on a day or a weekend, and then trying to get you to now start pushing all your money in on Christmas time, right? Some of y'all gonna get Christmas bonuses, and they're gonna turn around and try to take the Christmas bonus to try and spend on presents for what? Yep, a day of gluttony or doing this or that or whatever. Or I got to make sure if you're gonna take a trip, like why not? I mean, if you're gonna take a trip, and especially if you get days off, why not? Why not just take days off? Why not? Why not make it a point? Shoot, in the military, I racked up days during this time. Everybody's going for Christmas. Shoot, I show up. You muster, maybe stay there and maybe until lunchtime, and then after that, is it all right if I go home? Yep, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, cool. I'm out. Come back in the next day, repeat. Next day, repeat. Next day, repeat. I'm spending more of my work day, traveling around the island, trying to find out spots and see sites that I've never seen before. Everybody else is spending thousands upon thousands of dollars or whatever to be able to go back home and stuff like that. Look, I ain't mad at it. I'm just saying they spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to fly back to a place and maybe have a hotel or maybe have somebody put them up for a week or so. and then try to fly back and do all this other stuff or whatever. Shoot, I've got an island. You know what I'm saying? That I'm going around and traveling, and I'm take time out to love on self. Anyways, though, I feel like I'm getting away from Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, it's originally supposed to mean to fast. Its an original mindset is to fast, right? I ask you today, right? What are you willing to give up today? What are you willing to give up today? Okay, it's false, it's all false, it's all false. All right. Okay. Oh, they got the parades and everything going. Yeah, I remember as a child, I used to like them little things. But then I started thinking they were weird too. I stopped watching them. But I used to watch the little Thanksgiving parade and all that. I think I went to one in NYC when I was little. It's water with a few things thrown in there. Try to get my coughing and stuff together. I don't even know. In all honesty, everything. Got that, and then I got this. It's water. It's just straight water. But you hear what I'm saying? Like, what is it that you had to fast on? You know, they do that for Lent. If you're going to treat Thanksgiving like anything, you should, first of all, we should give up fallacy. We should give up lunacy. We should give up, we know that's not what Yah actually wants us to know, or we know that's not actually the truth. We should probably give it up first and foremost, right? Like if we know that something's a lie, then we should probably just say, you know what? Yeah, this is a lie. And so first things first, maybe we should say to our children, maybe we should say to our families, hey, being part of something that I know to be an outright lie is detrimental. Said he was talking to the people of Corinth because a lot of the women in the city were prostitutes, and if the men grew long hair, drunk women wouldn't know men from women. I never heard that one before. I had to study that. Okay. Nazarene law, you were to grow your hair long for certain reasons. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. Yeah. Certain reasons, certain things. And even, you know, like even for example, like with the Nazarite vow, for example, not supposed to have alcohol, but if you do Passover, you're still supposed to have alcohol. You're supposed to have wine. Right? Wine is not juice, by the way. Like they know the difference between wine and juice. Okay. Right. So wine is wine. Right. They don't have wine skin for juice. You know what I'm saying? But those are the things we have to ask ourselves. What are we willing to give up? What is it you're willing to fast from? Are you willing to fast starting with, if I know that Thanksgiving is a lie, if I know that Thanksgiving is not something the Most High is with, if I know that Thanksgiving is something that is anti-Negro, which means if I'm an Israelite, it's anti-me, or if I'm Native, it's anti-me, then why would I serve anybody that is anti-me? Why would I take time out? How you doing, real? Why would I take time out to do this? How you doing, Sonia? Thanks for being part of the community. You see what I'm saying? Why would I continue down this road when I know that I know that I know, right? Like, why would you celebrate Columbus Day? Would you know what Columbus did? Right? Same thing, right? I know what Columbus did. Why would, a matter of fact, if you know about Columbus Day, you also know that the only reason you think Columbus is Italian is because Italian people lied on him because Columbus wasn't Italian. If anything, he was mixed with Jewish blood anyways, but he wasn't Italian. The only reason you think he's Italian is because Italian people used to be treated like you were. Not quite, but you know, Italians, Jews, Negroes, Irish people, they all used to be treated in the same kind of the same bucket, trash. There were levels within the trash, but you know, basically they didn't like any of us. So Italians trying to make sure like you guys try to do your African American, you know, and Black History Month and all that, they started trying to do the same thing with themselves. They said, who's the person that we can use to be like, hey, look at us, we're really nice people too. They said, what about Christopher Columbus? And we'll lie and say that he found the United States of America, when if anything, he didn't find it per se, but he came across Hispaniola, or he came across Haiti, right? When Haiti and Dominicano were considered to be the same people, which they still are. But, but instead they said, no, he found America. And that's how that started. You didn't always think that Christopher Columbus discovered America. You didn't think that until the 1900s. Nobody would have thought that, because it doesn't make any sense. He never said that. Spain never said that. Roman Catholic Church never said it. Native Americans never said it. Right? But you still speak that today. Now, why, if we know this to be false, why would we continue to say he's Italian? Why would we continue to say Christopher Columbus discovered America? Why? We do so because at this point it's easier to keep up the lie, because to start calling out truth means you got to change your life. You're going to change your perspective. So I'm just saying, what are you willing to give up? When you give up something, yeah, a piece of you, you know what? Thank you, Holy Spirit. We're almost finished. But I see it now. I hear it now. The reason why many of you will not give up a lot of this stuff and a lot of the lies and stuff is because you feel like you have to give up a part of yourself. But it was never you in the first place. You've been holding on to something, thinking that it gives credence to who you are. And reality is, it has you staying away from who you are. Let go some of the nonsense so that you can actually just stand on principle and stand on who you are. You said question, so why don't the U.S. consider Haiti American? Well, according to the modern definition of an American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. So any person who was native here already, or was living here already before European countries started coming over, they were already, by European law and American law, considered to be an American, right? So but America, it's an interesting dynamic, because even when you talk about the United States of America, you have to realize that the United States of America is not talking about the United States of North America or even South America, right? The continent, because technically there's only one continent. North and South America are both connected, right? So they're not talking about that. But Puerto Rico is a territory, right? Hawaii used to be a territory. Alaska used to be a territory. Now they're states. States are countries. So you have 50 United States, or 50 United countries of America. So they're saying all of these countries have the same responsibility to uphold the federal law, or to uphold this American federal governed, fake system. If you don't know, for example, the United States of America, by law, 28 USC 300215 A, B, and C, tell you that the United States by law is a territory. United States by law is a is a a board. That's why you have a president, vice president, secretaries, treasurers, etc. Right? Congress members, and then boards in there and all that stuff. And then it also is considered to be publicly traded. United States is not a country, right? It's not even. I'm sorry. I said territory earlier. Excuse me. It's a corporation, right? So the United States of America is a corporation, not a country. It's changed. At one point, it was a country, but especially by the time you get to the 14th Amendment, and then definitely by the time you get to the 1930s, by law now you cannot say the United States is a corporation. Matter of fact, that's why a lot of places will say United States, and then you'll see places that say United States of America. Right? There's two different things going on there. But if you look at the 14th Amendment, after the 14th Amendment, or at starting the 14th Amendment, every time you see even the word citizen, it's always with a lowercase c. Before that, in the First Amendment through the 13th Amendment, it's always with the uppercase c. So you're dealing with two different Americas, not just what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated, as far as there being a white American, a black American, something like that. No, literally, by law, there's two different Americas. Right. So even when you're talking about Thanksgiving once again is showing you how double-minded the country can be. We have a very double-minded mindset, and we got to start fasting from it. But you got to ask yourself, how much do you want to give up in order to stop being so double-minded? Right? Are you really willing to live separate from that? And a lot of people aren't. Right? How you doing, Aboriginal Smile? Thanks for being part of the community. And how you doing, Aaron Wildcat Epithet? Thanks for being part of the community. So you got to really start looking at things quite differently, you know what I'm saying, than what we look at them as. And a lot of times we're not looking at them uh, in the manner that we should, right? We're not looking at it. And here's the deal with all these holy days, right? And we'll be getting closer, the closer we get to Christmas. You'll start hear us having conversation about that. We have something that we did a couple years ago. I don't know if it's 2 years ago now, 3 years ago, whenever, where we kind of pull it up from time to time and tell people to start watching those things that we put up there. We have all these videos about Christmas, some of them specifically, just for the children to be able to watch on their level, things like that. But and maybe, who knows, maybe we'll even do a watch party for the children and the parents, and we'll let our children talk about it and our parents can talk about it as well. And we'll do some of that. But you'd be surprised how much stuff is out there and how much stuff we're not really looking at and seeing and meditating on and catching, right? But it's because all these holy days are a manifestation of a spiritual problem, right? They're holy days. No, I don't celebrate Christmas. What I said is, as we get closer to Christmas, we have a whole thing on there about these pagan days and where this stuff comes from and all this stuff or whatever. And so we can have a watch party for the children to be able to see stuff on their level, even as far as what it is that they're believing that's wrong. I don't celebrate Christmas. I think that's that's pretty clear, right? That I don't celebrate Christmas. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that are out there. I'm sorry, how you doing, Tiana? You said that I feel like they were sent to discover lands so they could spread out because they were devouring each other, inbreeding and killing each other. So they needed new blood. Think about it. Yeah, I don't know how much of that I will go to, but yeah, that's definitely in the mindset of some. But if you know about the Crusades and stuff, you know why they even started the Crusades was because they were offing each other, you know. So this idea of white's unity, once again, there's no such thing as a real white person, because white means that the word white literally means you have no color, you have no melanin, you see through, you reflect light, things like that nature. So there's technically no such thing as a white person, right? Even the terms that you see in your Bible as white and stuff, they were originally written to mean like more like bright or things like that. So there's no such thing, right? You had to convince white people that they were white, right? There was no such thing for the longest of times, and still is, right? And this is when we have to have these conversations and be honest about stuff, but we have to do it within our culture and allow others to maybe do it within theirs. So when we have a conversation, we can then start having better opportunity to bounce things back and forth. Because the reality of the matter is this, right? If we just let's keep it a buck. The reality of the matter is this: is that you had to be tricked, but just tricked differently, right? You became overseers, you became slave patrolmen, you became people that were fighting with us, Irish, to becoming somebody who said, I'm Irish American, and said, why can't you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps? You've been taught to hate me by the same slave master. You just never were a slave, even though you were a slave. You know what I'm saying? You were never officially a slave. I was never given my right to humanity in your system. And when I became free of your system, now I become a problem because you never gave me the right to be a human. See, you've given some of our people the right to be human as long as they are still willing to be on the bottom rung and to denounce where they come from. But people who are such as myself who said, you know what, maybe I'll run away and I'll find there's a spiritual plantation out there that allows me to be free, we become a problem. You said you read where white is a combination of all colors. Yeah, that's something that's interesting that just started popping up. That's not scientifically accurate at all, right? People just started doing that. By the way, if you notice, and I'm not trying to come at you, I'm just saying that's, by the way, for example, you got to be careful. A lot of our Moorish brethren, and I'm a Moor myself, right? But I'm Israelite first, right? But I'm Moor as well, and really I'm kingdom before I'm even Israelite, right? But y'all hopefully get what I'm saying. I'm an Israelite first, but yes, I am a Moor. Moor is a catch-all. Moor is not a religion. Moor is not all the stuff it's turning into. Moor is a group of us who believe a similar thing, or at least lived in a similar place, or had different ways, or had different kingdoms that work together, right? But you'll even hear some of our Moorish brethren talking about, if you look in dictionaries in the 1700s and the 1800s, really it's the 1800s more so, but they'll say the 17 and 1800s, you'll see that black actually means, or white actually means this, and white actually means that. Yeah, because they try to change the color. You can't sit up there. The same people that write that definition in some of these dictionaries, you got to realize that they're the same people who were telling you that if you had one drop of black blood, you were considered to be black. Well, black means white. Black means this and that. Black. No, like it's very consistent, right? That every once in a while, black people start getting what white people have, and so what do? You take what's black and you make it white, and you take what's white and make it black, right? It's the same thing as far as gentrification. Brooklyn is built by black folk. Baltimore, built by black folk. But people try to tell you, no, 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 Baltimore, that's where, the revolution was taking place in Baltimore, built by black folk. Washington, D.C., well, George Washington, of course, blah, blah, Benjamin Massacre, black folk. Go on the metro, Washington, D.C. Orange line, is it? Orange or blue line, whichever one. And you get to George Washington University Hospital, and you go up the steps, and guess what? When you get over there, it's not George Washington University Hospital stop, unless they change the name, right? But it used to be called what? It used to be called not Swampland, because it is on Swampland, but what is it called? Foggy Bottom. You would get off at Foggy Bottom. Why? Because that was where the slaves lived. Now it's a big old university, and it's got a lot of money over there, and you go over there for shopping for certain food, and you pay $3,000 a month for rent. Right? But that's just where we used to have to stay before we had to walk over near the White House so that we could serve massa whoever was in the White House. You know what I'm saying? So you'll see people try to change. It happens all the time, right? If it happens watch this, if it happens to gentrify a whole neighborhood, I don't know, right? We gotta be careful. It happened, they gentrify words, right? Like you have it in your mindset that Negro means black, but Negro meant you. It meant a specific group of us. That's why there's a Negro land. They didn't just call Africa Negro land. They called specific places in Africa Negro land. Why? Because they knew that Negroes were Israelites, period. And when they found out that there were people who followed the Israelite ways in the United States of America, as we talked about when we started this conversation, what did they call us here? They called us Negroes. We were Negroes because of what we believed in. We were Negroes because of how we spoke. We were Negroes because of how we kept ourselves. We were Negroes because of what we believed. Well, if you're talking about Niger, then sure, they had Niger and stuff over there as well. Niger, Negus, Negus, all that. That's different than Negro. Negro or Negro was one of the most ancient terms for certain people on the coast of West Africa who had certain upheld beliefs that were even considered to be the same people that were dealt with in the Spanish Inquisition and the Portuguese Inquisition, part of the Roman Catholic Inquisition, right? And they even had ghettos for the Negroes who they said had long hair, wore black hoodies, put poetry over music, were really attracted to women, kept the Torah, right? They listed these things about us before they forced us to have to come out of what we believed, right? Like this is not something that's so far-fetched. We can look this up and we can say, well, wait a minute, hold up. Even putting poetry over music, having locks, being swarthy, you know what I'm saying? Being Israelites, being forced into slavery, living in ghettos. Yeah, before there was a ghetto for people that you call Ashkenazi Jews and Khazarian Jews, but the Ashkenazi specifically, the ones that you always talk about that were forced into ghettos, way before that happened in the 1900s, you know, 15, 14, 1300s, ghettos for these particular Israelites, this particular group of people. You see? So I'm just saying, like, yeah, those things are there, but a Negro was always different. That's why, once again, if people don't believe you, go look up Negro land. You can still look up this stuff. You can go to the Library of Congress. You can go on their website and ask, right, and go on the website, look up the Negro land map, and then look up Negro land, and then even look at the castles that you guys talk about all the time, all those castles, and you'll see that right around those places that you'll go visit. If you've never been there before, when you go to these places, guess where you're going? You're going to the same places, Negro land. And it'll have on the map, written by not us, written by them, written by the oppressor. It'll put on that map for you. It'll say, hey, this is where the scattered Israelites are. This is the kingdom of Judah over here, because they knew who you were. They were looking for you to enslave you, and they were using the Bible as a reason to do so. See, we're so busy saying they wrote the Bible. No, they actually used the Bible. They just flipped it on you, just like they use law, but they flip it on you. They put your right hand on the Bible and say your name. Now, what do? They say, put your left hand on the Bible, right? So they put the Bible down, bam, put your left hand on it, put your right hand in the air, and then they say, state your name. But that's your straw man. But if you state that that's your name with your right hand in the air, what are you doing? You're swearing on the Bible, by heaven, by the Most High, that you are not even who you say you are. You see what I'm saying? Like they're doing things to you. This is the Thanksgiving mentality. It's double-minded. And I'm sorry, I'm late, babe. I missed 11:11. Sorry. How you doing, Sister Carla? Right? They're using a mentality on you. They're using things that are right there in front of you. Right? They're putting, remember I just said, how do I forget what you have in my face? You say forget and forgive. Forgiveness is not a problem. Building trust is, because the same person that's telling me to forgive and forget is the same person that says forgive, but then I'm going to keep this same thing in front of your face. I essayed your woman right in front of you, but I'm going to stand in your house and I'm going to tell you what you can and cannot do in your own home, but tell you that you need to be the priest and prophet of your home. Now go figure it out, boy. And that's what you do. But somebody like me stands up and says, no. If you've been that oppressive and you still won't allow us to heal, then you have no right to be in this home. They get upset with you when you speak like that. Matter of fact, you lose people. We lost numbers. I started speaking like that. Why did I lose numbers? Because you start speaking like that. You're saying every spirit that is not like the Most High must get out. Yeah, and you don't. You wouldn't say that to a Holocaust survivor. Forgive and forget. Why? Because until that person feels like they've been made whole. But also, too, I'm not going to hold you. We talked about this a little the other day. I'm not going to hold you. We should realize. No offense to our Jewish brethren, right? No offense at all. I really mean this. No offense to my Jewish brethren that's listening right now, right? Somebody said, you Jewish brethren, get out your little feelings. No offense to my Jewish brethren. If they're not yours, then so be it, right? Because some of these Jewish folk will tell you the truth. So I'm not going to put them all in the same bag. And some of them ignorant, so I'm not going to put them all in the same bag. But no offense to them, but watch this. You need to realize that they don't have a monopoly on Holocaust. It's not the Holocaust. It's one of many Holocausts that have happened. And if we've gone through a Holocaust and we're not getting respect, then we should protect ourselves too. And I'm not just talking about, the only mindset we have is to yell at folk and to have weapons. I'm talking about, no, I protect my food, right? Because somebody took me from where I was and brought me over, or somebody took me from where I was and took away my ability to feed myself off of the land that was my father's land. I need to protect my food. I don't eat like you anymore. And that's all right. Right? And if anybody tries to come against it and say that I'm a reverse racist, that we should have the mindset to protect ourselves. Oh, I'm going to be careful because people don't like it when you talk like this, but this is real. Right? There's a way I used to eat. Period. And I protect it now. Yeah, they try to say this is Drapetomania. They get upset. People get nervous because you're talking like this. Oh, I wouldn't talk about massa like this. I can hear it in my spirit. Don't talk about massa like that. Be careful. Careful. Don't talk about massa like that. That's real though, right? It's like there's a way that I used to eat and I should protect it. It was all right to eat with my right hand. I should protect that. It was all right to make sure that my wife was treated a certain way. She should be protected. Matter of fact, she was supposed to be protected and she was supposed to get protection and affection. And if she's not getting protection and affection, there's something wrong, right? I should make sure that she's protected. There's a certain way. She should be comfortable to dress a certain way, period. Right? No matter what, because that's what we did. She should make sure that my children should feel comfortable and great. They should want to look like their father. There shouldn't be any shame. We're talking about, well, dad is just another generation. He's not cool enough to dance like this, blah, blah. Because the same dances that dad does should be the same ones that they do. We're passing stuff on generation to generation. You see what I'm saying? The generational wealth. I am trying not to have a 9-to-5, not because I'm trying to say I'm gonna live my best life, but I'm trying not to have a 9-to-5 because at some point I'm trying to make sure my great grandchildren don't have a 9-to-5. You see what I'm saying? So even if I got one now, I'm working my tail off, but I need you to comprehend, babe. If you're gonna be with me, my responsibility as a husband is get to a place to where I can be at home to protect the wealth, while you can go ahead and go somewhere else. Y'all didn't know that used to happen. That men used to actually stay home in the tent, and they would make sure that they watched the wealth, because the women, you don't want the women to stay at home. You actually wanted them to go out and take care of certain things and do certain things with the girls, because you wanted to be home to make sure you could protect the stuff at home, right? But you've been taught to make sure that you get outside the house all the time, because that would make you a man, and make sure that she stayed home. That's not even how we roll. That's not even in our culture. You see what I'm saying? The lack of culture is astounding. The Babylonian benefactor, he's putting something in you. And here you are, to where he's putting the Thanksgiving thing in you. He's flipping everything. The enemy done flipped everything, right? Wealth and riches was in your home. That's why you stayed at home, Dad, because you needed to make sure that everything was protected. And you had set up a business, and you had set up stuff, and you had children, and you had your sons could go out and do certain things. And you had, remember, David was the eighth of 7 sons. I'm sorry, he was the eighth of 8 sons. David was out there shepherding. His father didn't have to worry about shepherding nothing no more, right? Because the family was set up for success. What is a success? What makes you a success? When you have successors. When your successors are doing stuff out there, you ain't got to worry. And they do it all what? In your name. Come on, somebody. This is where I thought we was finished. Holy Spirit said we still got another leg of the race. Look, they do it in your name. How do we know that Yah's will is a success? When you set it up to where you are his successor, and you have successors, and now he's the King of Kings, who are kings of kings, who are kings of kings, who are kings of kings. You see what I'm saying? This kingdom is supposed to expand exponentially. Be mad at Jewish folk all you want, but they defend the throne. They defend. You ain't just say whatever you want, man, bruh. That stuff you wear it on your head, and all that stuff that you wear, man, that's corny looking. You're like, I don't care. This what rich Jewish folk wear. Say whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? I ain't wearing this stuff for you. This is how rich Jewish folk look. Man, why you got them fake curls on the outside, and you got your hair cut on the inside, of blah blah whatever. I don't care what you think about this. Look, when I go around my community, the girls looking to see if I'm looking like this. Right? If I go out to y'all community, if I go to the club or whatever, you see me out there, yeah, I have a little fun with y'all for a hot second. But for real, when I come back here, they looking for me to have that hat with the rim. They looking for me to have little fake curls. They looking to make sure that I got my fringes on and everything. They need my tassels to be there. They're looking for my head to be covered. Right? They're looking for me to have a beard and everything. Like they're not worried about fitting in. Come on, they're set apart. We are the people that have an issue with looking like us. I'm not saying that nobody didn't have anything to do with it. If you go there and say, hey, they had this to do with it, fine. But what I'm saying is, at some point, when you going to step up? When you going to come into this Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving actually originally meant fasting. When are you going to fast from some foolishness that you know is not even true? When are you going to say, it's important to me to learn my language enough to make sure that my greetings are my greetings? To make sure that how our language sounded originally before somebody modified it, that I say it the way we said it. And I stopped looking to somebody else. And I want to be part of a group that we sound like how we sound, period. Yes, women can wear zits, or what's now called zits, it's sight, right? Yes, they can. Right? I've even personally made some for sisters. So yeah. And I make them a little differently, to be honest. They're not as beautifully woven, I guess you would say. I do a specific thing because I'm looking for specific numbers when I make them, but I'd say that's more of a personal thing than whatever, right? But I'm just saying, we have not fasted from the world so much. We are afraid to look like us. Had somebody on here once again going to 1 Corinthians. We was talking about a whole nother culture, and the person brings up, I can't tell you how often I have to hear somebody bring up 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and say, do you not know that it's a sin for men to have long hair? And it's like Paul says specifically, that's not even an Israelite custom. He said that's something y'all do. And then when I brought it to the brother, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 16, he said, I added to it. So then I read it in his language. And he still, you added to it. No, man, no, it's because you want to fit in so bad that you will cut out your own culture. We are the only people that think that being more holy means being less like us. And I get what some people mean, because well, we don't want to have women, scandalously clad and this and that or whatever. I get it. I get it. I get it. But that's not us. I'm talking about we need more of us. See, we get into the place where sisters are cutting off thighs, or adding thighs on, or cutting off buttocks to put it here or there, cutting off breast, or augmenting breast, or we get to a place where men are now wearing extensions in their hair. I guess they've been doing that for years, and I just didn't get the memo, right? We're adding on titles to ourselves. We're acting like gender replaces sex when gender comes from jancha, which means you're talking about a style. So every culture has its own genders. See, when people say this stuff, it's foolishness. We got to fast from it. We got to do some Thanksgiving. It's foolishness. Every culture has their own genders because every culture has their own styles for husbands and wives. We have a particular style for boys, girls, men, women, husbands, wives. But guess what? They all fit in the male, female. That's how that works. Gender is just a style. Gender is like saying you like classical music or you like hip hop music. Both are music, right? You wouldn't say because one is hip hop and one is classical, right? Some of y'all would say, well, because somebody listens to classical music, they must walk around like so. They must speak in a fashion in which it is oratory. And when they begin to speak, they make sure that they breathe in and they only come out, and they must come out deeply and all that stuff. But somebody can have a hand behind their back and still listen to the greatest of hip hop, right? You see what I'm saying? Somebody say, man, I'm hip hop. I'm street. I'm this and that. Street don't mean hip hop. Do you know what hip hop even means? First of all, hip hop's not your culture. Hip hop was given to you by somebody else. But when you say you're hip hop, because somebody took it, what hip hop was, and they've changed it. But hip hop doesn't even mean music. You see what I'm saying? And people don't get into the culture. Hip hop doesn't even mean music. If you're talking about the original hip hop, like we're talking like 50s, 60s hip hop in New York. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know what I'm saying? We're talking about 50s, 60s music in hip hop. 50s, 60s music in hip hop is talking about MCing. Cool. MCing is different than being a rapper, by the way, right? You can be a rapper and not reach anybody, but an MC is different, right? But you talking about MCing, you're talking about clothing, right? Fashion is part of it. You're talking about art, even like the I'm trying to say calligraphy, tagging and stuff like that, painting, spray painting, stuff like that. You're talking about pop locking or dancing, right? You're talking about that's hip hop. That's actually what hip hop is from, right? And hip hop wasn't even attached to a color, although there was particular color that created it, but it wasn't even attached to a color. It was attached to if you hit certain standards, and all the people could be within certain things within hip hop. See, nowadays you're so busy talking about hip hop, not realizing that people who own what you call hip hop are the ones to tell you what hip hop is. So hip hop was never supposed to be uh like NWA. I know y'all ain't gonna like this, but I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. NWA was never hip hop by definition. NWA was some rap stuff, right? With some gangster rap. That's why gangster rap ain't really hip hop. It started getting some hip hop stuff kind of put back into it over time, but gangster rap ain't really hip hop. Hip hop was supposed to be something that brought the community together and helped you out. How you gonna be gangster talking about offing the people and then talking about his hip hop? Somebody else controlled it and it put the same false narrative as far as what a Negro is, and then all of a sudden told you this is what you're supposed to celebrate, and now you celebrate it as hip hop. Some of y'all go to restaurants called hip hop chicken, as if chicken got anything to do with hip hop. Public Enemy is hip hop for sure. NWA was not. Right? Snoop Dogg was not hip hop. Tupac at times was hip hop, and other times, right? Matter of fact, if you know about Tupac, Tupac used to be a dancer. Right. Now, am I saying I've never listened to any gangster rap? Am I saying that there's not even a slight appreciation? I'm not saying I appreciate as far as, well, I can't even say appreciate. Appreciate would mean I'd lift it up in value. But is there anything where I can see somebody has skills who does gangster rap? For sure. But I'm be honest with you, gangster rap has never been hip hop. Can't be by definition. It's not uplifting. Right? When you start getting into some different stuff, you can't call it hip hop anymore. Once again, it's based off of a culture. It's the same thing with the Bible. Once you start flipping this stuff and mixing and matching iron with clay, and you start making excuses for you to do this and do that, guess what? It's no longer Bible. It's no longer Israel. It's no longer followers of the way. It's no longer Yehoshabai. It's no longer Amanava'al. It's no longer Ravak HaKadosh. It's no longer Abba. It's no longer Yahweh. It's no longer Barashat. It's no longer Shemot, right? It's no longer these things because you've remixed it so much, right? If you come over my house and I say, I'm about to make turkey, that's great. You come over the next day, I say, I'm about to give you turkey sandwiches. That's great. You come over my house again, I say, okay, I'm gonna put turkey, I'm gonna put it in some mac and cheese. After a while, I've remixed it to where, there's turkey in it. You know what I'm saying? But after a while, it's like, this ain't really, I'm not really eating just turkey anymore. I'm having some things mixed in with turkey. Sure, turkey's in there somewhere, but this ain't original. Right? And they done treated everybody like jive turkey, so to speak. I know that's some language from some old school language there, but they done messed up and got a whole bunch of people out here on some jive, on some lies, on some BS, on some nonsense out here trying to tell you and I that Thanksgiving is something that the Bible tells you to celebrate every fourth day or Thursday or whatever of the year, or of the month, excuse me, of the month of November. So just be careful. Just be careful. Just be careful with people on here trying to tell you what's going on and trying to tell you that, hey, man, I know it says just do this. I know your word says just do this. I know this is supposed to be that. But hey, man, Thanksgiving, we'll just go ahead. Just look the other way, man. Just come around your family. Just look the other way. Just come to this service real quick. Just look the other way. Just love on people. Just look the other way. Just eat this for this time. Just look the other way. It's time for us to stop looking the other way. After a while, we've been looking the other way so long that we lost. Well, yeah, you should give thanks daily. Once again, though, if you're talking about the Middle English, this term Thanksgiving doesn't even mean give thanks. If they told you to give thanks, they would say give thanks. If they said be thankful, they would just say be thankful. Right? Thanksgiving means a time to fast, a time to let go. So I ask again, right? Yes. Yes, right, but don't make it so mystical it's not practical. I'm asking you specifically, even if you don't need to state it, you don't need to state it for me. I'm just a man, right? I'm just a vessel. All right. State it for yourself in your mind and make a change today. What is it that I will fast from to make sure that I alleviate myself the stress, the frustration of remaining in part of a culture that is not for my people? What can I let go of? Some of you need to let go of someone. I'm not talking about your marriage or anything like that, so don't blame me for that. I don't do that. Amen. There's people out here who've been waiting for me to give them permission to get rid of their spouse for the longest time. I don't do none of that. That's between you and the Most High. But I'm saying some of you got relationships. Some of y'all might have been in a relationship with somebody for 12 months, 15 months, 10 years, and y'all ain't walked down the aisle yet, ain't got no children yet. Won't even help you take care of your children. You might need to release that though. That's different than marriage. Even though in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. But you might want to be careful about that. You might want to be careful. Some of you had friends since you were children and don't even realize your friend, they never meant you anything great anyways, unless they can go ahead and get something from you, right? You might need to release it. Some of you been talking about, doing this, that. I'm just trying to tell you, you're about to enjoy something that's cognitive dissonance, and you might need to let go. Instead of eating things sacrificed to idols, instead of eating things that are not of Yah, instead of eating things that literally, eating things that were served up supposedly in this fake Thanksgiving thing, served up by those who literally ate the flesh of your people. You might want to find something to let go of. What can you let go of? What can you let go of? What can you let go of? Thanksgiving is supposed to be a time of fasting, even if you go by the Eurocentric standard for Thanksgiving, right? Into his courts with thanks. I'm sorry, into his gates with thanksgiving. You can't even come into the city of Jerusalem, right, without first letting something go. You ever seen when somebody's coming into the gates of a city in the movies or wherever you've seen it, right? And they're walking into the city, and you have somebody standing there. He checks you. He says, let me see what you're carrying. He says, you might need to give up your swords. You might need to give up those guns before you come in. You ever seen somebody, they walking into a saloon or something like that, and they have somebody at the door, they say, hey, leave your guns and stuff like that. You ever going into the club and you got a metal detector you got to go through? Some of y'all going to school and you got a metal detector or whatever you got to go through, right? Empty them pockets. Come on, right? You ever have police officers before they put you in the car or something like that? Or even if it's not even there, you're just going to something and the police have to check you. They pat you down. They have to make sure that they pat down. Maybe you've seen gangsters get patted down. Maybe you've been patted down before. They're checking you because before you get into a certain level of anything, you got some things that you got to release, right? You can't come up in there with the same stuff, the same mentality, the same foolishness, and talking about you going to be able to get into a better perspective and get in front of the king. We got too many kings. We got too much royalty. We have too many Ishas. We have too many Ayazas. We have too many wives. We have too many great people that we just keep letting people bring the same stuff in front of, and then trying to figure out how the throne is getting tainted. Remember, we said earlier, the Jezebel spirit is not somewhere outside of Israel. She was right at the throne, right? The Jezebel spirit was right at the throne. Jezebel was right there at the throne. When decisions were made, she was right there. How many services go on and Jezebel's right there in the meeting? It's difficult to act like you don't know nothing about the Jezebel spirit when you and her say amen together. And yes, men can have Jezebel spirits too. You say you're trying to learn how to let go of all the ways of the world and start asking by Elohim to take certain things from you. Sure, right? And how you doing, Carmel? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to separate? You are a chosen generation. That means out of all generations of people, you are chosen. Matter of fact, do you remember the first scroll or the first book of the Bible is actually named Barashat, right? But we say Genesis, right? That means you're talking about the genealogy of a particular group. That's why it's Genesis, right? There were other people around, but it only deals with Adam going through Noah, right? Or well, Adam to Enoch, or to Seth, to Enoch, to Methuselah, to Noah, to Shem, to Hebrew, to Peleg, to um, Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, who becomes Israel, from Israel to Obed, from Obed to Jesse, to Boaz, from Boaz to Obed, from Obed to Jesse, from Jesse to David, etc. Right? And then who's the son? Or then Solomon, of course. But then who comes out of that? The son of David, Yehoshaphat. Right? Like it's giving you particular parameters. Right? It's giving you certain things to memorialize. It's giving you names, authority. That's why you can call yourself beloved. Right? We think that beloved is a word for everybody, but beloved is not a word for everybody. Right? Beloved means Yehovah, or well, really, excuse me, beloved means David or David, and David is who? Yehovah. He is Judah, right? So whenever your Bible says beloved, it's talking about who? It's talking about Judah. It's talking about David. It's saying specifically that family lineage going on the throne, right? Genesis is talking about a genealogy. Well, here you are, a chosen genealogy, a chosen generation out of all these generations, but you keep trying to act like every other generation. And you're chosen by the Most High, right? Think not that it's me, right? That you who chose me or found me or loved me. It's I who chose you or loved you. Thus saith Yehovah, right? So this is a family. Yeah, it's a family story. And anybody graft in, that's why you got to be grafted in, because the tree got to be the same family, the same story, the same mindset, the same love, the same heart. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, right? A holy nation, and what a peculiar people. You're not supposed to fit in as a nation. Thanks for being part of the community, Chief. Right? And why does that is important? It says that you're supposed to do those things as chosen. Why? To show forth the praises of the Most High. That's what it is. Right? Did I add in that? Somebody tried to say I was adding to the Bible earlier. Did I add anything in there? That's right in your word. Read your Bible, it'll bless you. It's saying specifically, you are chosen by the Most High to be peculiar, to not fit in right? Therefore, be holy as he is holy, as a nation, right? And make sure that you are what? That you are a royal priesthood. By the way, if you don't know this, in both Hebrew and in Greek connotation, there was only one word for royalty and priest. It's the same word. So when it says royal priesthood, that's in English for you because you don't comprehend the difference. You're thinking that it's two words and all that. For us, if you are a priest, you must be royalty. And if you're royalty, you must be a priest. When Saul started messing up, what's one of the first things that went away? If he really ever did it at all, for real, for real. One of the first things that went away was what? Saul was not doing things that a priest would do. Matter of fact, some of you were surprised when it says Saul had the Holy Spirit descend upon him and he started speaking in tongues. He started speaking the word. We're not 100% sure how he was doing, but he started prophesying, right? But the Holy Spirit should have been upon him a lot because he's supposed to be a priest. He's royalty. If you're the king of Israel, you're supposed to be the high priest, basically. I mean, I know that's not exactly how it works, but hopefully you get the context of what I'm saying. If you the king of Israel, right? Who was David? David was out there doing priestly stuff while he was a shepherd. All of a sudden he steps into being king. Y'all sitting up here surprised. David was out there giving praises with his heart, defending the sheep against lions and bears, doing all that stuff. He was royalty already. The sheep loved him. It just took time for you as the sheep to find out who he was. But the Most High was paying attention to David when he was out there with sheep. He didn't need everybody to come together for Thanksgiving to be able to say who he was or to validate what he was doing. He said, oh, I can do this. He said, oh, you just need me to be a shepherd. I already be a shepherd all day, every day. I do this. This is what I do. He just brought him in. The Most High was paying attention to him. See, somebody need to hear this. Stay on track. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being obedient. Keep loving people the way you are. Nobody's paying attention, so you think, but the Most High, he's looking at you over the sheep. The Most High, he's watching how you taking care of the 5 people that are under you now. The Most High is paying attention to how you treat your wife. Yeah, he's paying attention to how you're treating your son and your daughter. He's paying attention to how you are submitted to your husband, not in submission, but submission. If your husband is on the right mission of the Most High, he loves it when you submit to his mission because that's not your husband's mission, it's his mission. See, so you have a husband that's loving you as Yahshua loved us and was willing to give his life for it, and you're willing to submit to the mission that your husband is submitting to himself by willing to give his life for you. Oh, the Most High, he paying attention. He said, oh, okay, I see that. I see that, right? He saw me when I was out there and I was preaching to trees. And he said he takes his time out to articulate things. And he studies the word and he's sitting up there looking at the ants go by and he shows up faithfully. And even when it's his time to preach and somebody won't let him preach because there's too many people there that day, but he promised him he would preach and stuff. So his family didn't get, but he keeps coming back and he's being faithful. He was paying attention to me. Right? And I'm not even close to being executing everything that we're supposed to execute. We got too many years left. We got too many decades left. You hear what I'm saying? We got too much time left. I'm trying to tell somebody that he's watching you. He's watching how you going ahead and taking care of the sheep. He's watching you today, how you realize that, man, I don't like to be by myself. Let me find somebody at SOC, let them know real quick. I'll just call them. I'll check on them real quick today. He's watching. You see what I'm saying? People won't listen. People won't show up, this and that or whatever. Tend to the sheep. And sheep, watch this. Can I say something to you? He's watching how you treat your shepherds, right? How you treat your parents. How you treat your friends and your family, those who you say are friends and family. How you treating those people that he's allowed to be with you on your job, allowed to be over you at your job. Excuse me. How you treating them? How you treat being on time? Because you'll be on time for them, but you won't be on time for him. He's watching you. Because if you can't do it for them, he says, well, why would they do it for me? They can't even do it for the people that they see. I gave them the job, and they're so busy worried about the person, and they won't submit to a person. But I didn't give them a person. I gave them a mission. Submit to the mission. It's not submission. It's submission. It's not subwomanship. It's submission. I blessed you because I want to see what you do with it. I blessed you, and watch this. And here's the blessing. Be careful how you entertaining people, because you could be entertaining an angel unaware. An angel is a messenger of the Most High. Be careful. See, some of you won't listen to the homeless man on the block who've been telling you for the longest time, get your stuff together, and you just say they crazy. Be careful. He watching how you treat those people. Muhammad Ali once said, I don't care how you treat me, right? He said, I want to see how you treat the waiter. So you might treat me some kind of way, and I'm thankful, I'm grateful for it, but he was like, I want to see how you treat the waiter. See, you know my face. And you think that just by treating me some kind of way, there's automatically something I'm going to do for you or whatever. And I appreciate it, and maybe you respect what I've done. But the person who hasn't done something to where you know what they do or not, how do you treat them? You see what I'm saying? Yah is watching how we're treating one another. Let's fast from this thing that's like, I'm going to treat you better because you look like Israel, because you're better, because you make this much money, because this or that or whatever. I thank y'all because y'all know I live the life of a Levite. It is impossible, right? I know y'all can do all things, but hear what I'm saying. I'm not so mystical. I'm not practical. Y'all uses people, and it would be impossible if you guys were not as obedient as you were to the Most High for my family to exist the way that we exist. For me to be able to study, for me to be able to have a thing to where literally my body been trying to fall apart on me these last couple of weeks, and I just got off a time off, which I'm not even used to, and yet somehow, some way, I'm not scared. And when I was working 9 to 5, I'd be scared if I couldn't show up for a few weeks. If my wife who was a breadwinner at one point, if she could make it, for a few weeks, who knows what's going to happen? But Yah has blessed us, and I thank y'all for doing that. Right? I'm trying to say that because I want you to know, love on your family today, really every day. Love on each other. Go out of your way today. That yes, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but we celebrate fasting. Right? It's too late because I've been so sick. I haven't been able to put out the mandate that we would fast today. But take time out to go away from not checking on your brother or sister today. Take time out to go away from not checking on your brother or sister today. Cut that out today. Today, somebody in the community needs to hear from you because you love them. Every day, of course, yeah. But I'm just saying today, make it a point, because during these holy days that are supposed to be so great for everybody in this world, this is when a whole bunch of people be losing it and be feeling like they can't make it and feel like they're by themselves. And next thing you know, you hear some really terrible news. Let somebody know that they're loved today. I didn't say you got to sit down with turkeys. I didn't say you got to sit down and believe. I'm just saying take time out. If you do it every day, praise Yah for you. If you don't mind for me, right? If you don't mind for me, for those of you who look up to me in any kind of way, spiritual father wise or other, right? Or just as a brother or just as a human being. This is my request to your humanity. Reach out to somebody and let them know that they're loved. Because somebody needs to hear it, right? You'd be surprised, man, one time telling a brother or sister that they love. And that's all you say. Sometimes I don't know what to say. So just want to reach out. Love you. You'd be surprised what that does to somebody, right? Especially coming up on these holy days. We're going to see each other. We're going to make sure we do, we have another watch party coming up soon. We're working it out to make sure that we tell you guys where we're going to be next year and everything and what the days and time, right? But I'm just saying, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So I'm just saying, take time out to show love towards somebody. All right. We are community. For us, it's not just virtual, it's reality. And that being said, normally we put our businesses here. Today, I'm making it a point again to just say, I will try my best, if not today, tomorrow or Friday. Tomorrow or Saturday. Hopefully you guys will hear from me or get a call, even if I got to call a bunch of people. So even if it's only like 5 minutes per conversation or something, just know that I'll be trying to call everybody. I'll be praying for everybody as much as possible. And I apologize if I can't talk for a really, really long time, but at least want to reach out to everybody, let you guys know that we're thinking about you. We honor you. We hope that your life is going well. We ask for prayer. I can't say the name. We ask for prayer for somebody in particular. Well, I don't know how to say this without giving personal stuff away. How about this? We're praying for mothers. I'll just say it like that. We're praying for mothers. So if you want to join us for prayer for that, we're obviously praying for father, but there's something specific. I guess can't say it. So I'm asking without giving the person stuff away. So I'm just saying we're praying for mothers. We appreciate you. Um, if you do have a great Thanksgiving, we ask that you have a day of fasting, of giving something up, because this Thanksgiving, as far as gluttony and all that stuff, that's not our culture, and we don't support that in any way, shape, or form. Uh, I didn't even think about it for real, for real. Some of the stuff's gonna be closed the next few days. I guess I'll just be chilling at the house. I feel a lot better than I did yesterday, or what was that, Monday, last time I was before you guys. So prayerfully, I'm gonna get this thing together at some point. We're gonna get these evening sessions back on track. Matter of fact, hold on one second. It's not this Thursday, right? It's next Thursday. I got a guest with me on Thursday. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure we're doing our schedule correct. Okay, next Thursday. Okay. So I should be back on with you guys tonight. Tomorrow and Saturday on our live sessions for the Rising will be Q&A. So if you'd like to join us, we'll be on tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll be on Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. So if you'd like to be able to join us, feel free. We'll be on, not on this channel on TikTok, but on Kofi_42. We'll be on TikTok and YouTube at 8 p.m. Tonight and tomorrow. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about tonight and tomorrow. But if you want to join us in the Rising, if you like what you heard today, feel free to join us. We're on pretty much every day at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays, which is my day off. And sometimes we have somebody in the ministerial staff who comes and fills in on those days. So you can still fill in on those days with us, or come in on those days with us, even if I'm not on Wednesday. But we thank you guys for being on. We appreciate you. We're going to do something called a shout out. If you've never done one with us before, it's pretty simple. It's a way of us being able to come together and kind of see some things that are going on as well. And for us, like we said, this is not just virtual. It's for us, it's reality. We have people that are spread out, and we're kind of spreading out all over the place, all over the world. So I have to get some things in order. I got some people to help out, but I haven't been in the best place physically, physically, as of late. So we're going to make sure that we get there. But we thank you all for being on. We appreciate you. Hopefully you learned something today. And tomorrow we'll do Q&A, and Saturday we'll do Q&A, and that'll be the end of this Babylonian Benefactors series. So prayerfully, you guys will enjoy what we talk about tomorrow. And we thank you for participating. That's all that I have for today. We give all honor and praise once again to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who doesn't like to say but to be honored. You can check her out as always on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank everybody for being on so much, and hopefully you'll stick around for our shout out. If you're on another platform, you'd like to come over to TikTok and join us, feel free to do so. We will be started in just a second. If you've never done a shout out with us before, it's just an opportunity for you to get more information on things that we do as a community for different ages, of different platforms, education, etc., help, businesses, whatever the case might be. And hopefully you guys will stick around and join us in a little bit. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take my leave, at least until this evening. Continue to pray for us, and we'll continue to do the same for you. And hopefully we'll see you this evening. If not, see you tomorrow. And yeah, thank you. So as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor of Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Peace. To everybody else who's still on with us, this is how our shout out works. If you've never done one with us before, pretty simple. When